nearly 1.5 centuries of history and tradition to lean on, the Port Adelaide Football Club can proudly boast 36 SANFL premierships from 71 grand final appearances. This great club is arguably the most successful Australian rules football club in the world. Relative newcomers Woodville West Torrens was forged from the bond of two clubs that hadn't won a flag since 1953. The merger paid off in spades with a premiership within 3 years.
This is for both clubs, for Woodville and for West Torrens. Now we're one club.
In the new century, the Magpies are a mere shadow of their former glory, but with an AFL legend at the helm, the future looks bright at Alberton. Last year, the Eagles matched a record long held by the Magpies, but it wasn't a record to be proud of. As the reigning premiers, they finished lower than any team since 1991. They have a lot to play for this season. It's a battle for pride, it's a battle for honour, it's a battle for position. It's all about who wants it most. From the Woodville Oval, it's round 5, the Eagles versus Port Adelaide. Well, the Eagles have won 9 of their past 10 games against Port Adelaide, so they enter this one confident. They're experienced and a classy side who, it must be said, we thought would perform better than this early in the season. If we look at the Port Adelaide lineup, on the other hand, well, we know they were going to improve under Ken McGregor. They're coming off a bye, and in round 3 they had a very impressive, close but very impressive victory over Glenelg at Alberton. Well, this afternoon, Slatey, as I said, two sides who certainly were eyeing off top 5 positions. Perhaps the Eagles have underperformed, perhaps Port Adelaide performing a little better than maybe what we thought.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. If we look at it, the Eagles would have dragged a lot of confidence though out of beating Nord, I think, last week, and they'll go into this game pretty confident. They saw how tough it was to finish so strong after such a poor start last year, so they'll be looking to rectify that this year and win some early games. Port Adelaide, well, if they lose this one, they're 1-3, and it'll be a very tough road home, so they'll be very switched on, as well as being aware of that record against the Eagles.
Well, you mentioned a victory over Norwood. Norwood had a victory in the Anzac Day match, and the rematch with the Bloods of last year's grand finalists. It was a poor first half, though.
It was. Look, I mean, Norwood, once they get their game flowing, West find it very hard to score. I think West scored 2 goals after half-time to Norwood 7. So, yeah, they just had a slow start. Maybe they realised with Ferguson out and Schmidt, their probably informed ball getter, that they took it a bit easy. But, yeah, that once they got going, they were well and truly ahead.
And there's the final result, 26 points after trailing by 10 points at half-time, with Norwood getting over the Bloods. And they trailed by 10 points at half-time. The Bloods were up and running, and that was one of the talking points, just what happened between the coaches at half-time. We see here Andy Collins there as the Norwood players go off the field, and he was pointing and said a few words to the Norwood players. And you see in the background there, the man in red, Nathan Bassett, running up, the coach of the Redlegs, to have a chat with Andy Collins, and we believe there was an altercation after that. The SANFL is investigating, and in about 3 hours' time, both clubs have got to have their explanation in place, and so that will be very interesting to see what the SANFL does.
It definitely will.
Slatey leaving it alone because his side, North Adelaide, is an assistant coach with North Adelaide, and they had a good win down at the Panthers at Noarlunga last night as the Anzac round continued. And look, again, a side in South Adelaide that performed well in the first half but just couldn't go on.
That's right. Well, we focused. It was still a bit of a frustrating encounter. I mean, 38 points, you'd probably take that and be pretty happy with it, but we focused on a good start. We got a good start, and then the second quarter, it just sort of fell apart with a lot of drive from South, but I mean, a few skill errors and a few silly free kicks probably cost North, but able to persist and run the game out in the end.
Highlights of that at three-quarter time, and it was a 38-point margin in favour of the Roosters. So after last night, our premiership table taking shape, and I guess the top 3, I think a lot of people would have would have been surprised that Westies are up there. Perhaps the Eagles maybe were top 3 contenders, but that's the way it shapes after last night. And of course the Eagles still 2 wins and 1 loss, and Port Adelaide 1 win and 2 losses makes it a crucial game this afternoon. And Anzac round 5 of SANFL football. We've got the 2 matches already been played. We've seen some brief highlights of those. More to come. Eagles against Port this afternoon, our match of the day. The only game on this afternoon. And then tonight at the Bay, Glenelg taking on the Double Blues in Central District. Not quite the same to have Centrals not playing in the Anzac round. It's been a fixture for them to actually play on Anzac Day, but of course not this season. As we go down to Chris Kendall on the boundary, and Chris, the Eagles firstly, and under Kenny McGregor, I should say under Michael Godden, have certainly improved this season, certainly their start to the season.
Look, they certainly did, but then again they had to, didn't they, Neil, after the 2011 hangover that we saw in 2012. They've come out of the blocks really well this year, and of course culminated in a 36-point win last week against the Redlegs. It was really impressive. No changes to their selected lineup from Thursday night. Bernie Vince, of course, does drop out of that Eagles team that played against Nord the other night, but one thing that Michael Godden is really looking at is to carry over that confidence that we saw there last week, where they played some really good contested footy against the league benchmark.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the boys played really well last week. I mean, we had eight inclusions, I think it was, which changed the sides, balance, and the boys, they put it all out there, and it was a good win. You need them occasionally.
Port's outside spread and run against Glenelg was very impressive. Something you're looking to counter today to try and shut down their space?
Yeah, we go back a few weeks ago and we played Westies here, and we were terrible on the spread, so we obviously lifted that a bit against Nord last week, and we need to do that again today.
Looking at the Eagles lineup, look, a switched-on Parry is obviously very important to this team. With a bit of aggression but not overstepping the line, will certainly get players like Lewis and Powell first use of the ball. They'll be looking from drive from players like Sumner, a bit of a spark there, and also Luke Jarrod to really get him some drive out of defence.
Chris, now we get to Ken McGregor, of course, in charge of Port Adelaide, and I think he'd be pretty happy with one late change.
He certainly would be. Adam Koshel drops out of the selected 22 and Graham Johncock comes back in. Now, of course, the last time that Johncock played was back in round 2 against Sturt, when he kicked that 7 goals and just about dragged the Magpies over the line there in a very impressive second half. Their second half was impressive last week too against Glenelg. They got the Chockies by 2 points, and Ken McGregor, he knows he's got a young list there, he knows he's got a lot of kids, but one of those things they really need to do is back themselves in those situations. He wants to see the same again today.
Yeah, I think a few of the younger boys, as you said, obviously got a lot of confidence out of that. So I'm hoping the momentum comes through. Obviously a bye last week probably didn't help us, but the guys have been great at training, so I'm pretty confident there'll be a good result today.
On a day like today with the taller Eagles forwards, you really need a big effort from the guys like Corey Beard in particular down in defence.
Yeah, we've got Corey Beard and Bobby Rakawaza. They've been fantastic for us all year, so I'm pretty confident they'll do the job. Some of their smaller mids and smaller forwards that are also dangerous as well, so we've got to make sure we keep a tight rein on them.
On to get players like Summerton, Kirkwood first use of the ball. Bit of a boost through Johncock coming into the side, but I think the threat will be up forward with John Butcher up there, as well as Harder working together to obviously probably kick a bag each or combine very well up there to put a bit of scoreboard pressure on.
Back down to Chris, and I've noticed whilst Slady was talking then, you're having a look around, you don't really think it's going to rain, do you?
Well, let's be honest, Crossy, it's me on the boundary. Of course it's going to rain. No, there is some cloud in there. I'm told there's only a 10% chance of rain. 27 degrees today. The temperature has dropped a little bit from that. The real tricky thing, boys, is this wind more than anything else. In the reserves, we saw it blowing to the northern end a fair bit. That swung right around 180 degrees. It's blowing towards the southern end of the ground, but it is blowing away and across the ground, so it's blowing into the outer side from where you're watching on television. Probably worth about 3 goals. The big trick if you're kicking to the northern end, you're going to have to start your kicks from left to right, because they are blowing right across the face of goal at the moment.
Well, while you were talking there, Chris, in the background, the toss was won by James Meiklejohn and kicking to the southern end of the ground. So, again, what does that mean in terms of the advantage for Port?
There's a bit of an advantage there at the moment because it's blowing to that southern end, but again, the kicks are going to have to start hard left and then blow back right in that side of things. This is going to be a real tricky one to read. We're going to see plenty of kicks that look fantastic off the blue and then just blow right across today.
Okay. Thanks for that, Chris. And Slady, for Port Adelaide, we've looked at that ladder. It is an important game for them. They're sitting 7th with 1 win and 2 losses, but they are coming off a bye. But then you take into account the win that they did have was very, very good for their momentum, a 2-point win over Glenelg.
Yeah, it was. And look, they're going to have to remain positive. Early wins are just so important to set yourself up. Like we said, 4th and 5th spot is always up for grabs late in the season, but you need to get these early wins just to take a bit of pressure off and be able to play your game plan and try a few different things. If the pressure's on them for the full year, have they got enough balance to sustain it? I don't know.
And for the Eagles, I think we thought coming into the season, as I think a lot of people thought, that they would certainly be top 3 contenders. They looked like they'd recruited pretty well. They surely couldn't start 0-5 like they did last season.
No, but I guess they lose Adam Grokey, and I guess that puts a bit more pressure on Ainger. He's been playing well, but he's going to have a massive focus on him today. He's always going to drag the best defender at the moment. So, look, forward line could be a bit of a problem for him, but if they can win it on ball, I think the Eagles have the better side to probably take this game out.
Yeah, well, we saw Craig Parry there walking through. Obviously, he's going to be a key with their on-ballers, and Angus Roundtree there as well, Craig Parry, who will, well, in all likelihood, give them first use, but it'll be an interesting battle with James Meiklejohn in the ruck contest. Well, we're just about set for a start. Players taking up position. What a fascinating game in front of us in what will probably be difficult kicking conditions with a fair old breeze out there, as Chris mentioned. And for the first bounce, it's welcome for the first time this afternoon to King Morgan.
Thanks, Neil. The Eagles have been the masters of Port Adelaide in recent years. The Magpies haven't travelled to Woodville and won since 2008. On that day, Tim Ginniver was their coach. Today it's Ken McGregor against his old club. One of the many subplots that will play out today. The other will be the battle in the ruck between state squad members James Meiklejohn in game number 150 and Craig Parry. Maybe competing for the first rucking spot. Important game. The 1 and 2 Magpies taking on the 2-1 Eagles. And we are all set to go here. It will be Parry and Meiklejohn who will do battle first. A beautiful bounce by the umpire. Parry it was who got first hands to that footy. Harder came across. Some heavy work in there early. Ball will come out eventually. In fact, it's going to be held in Roundtree and Powell. No surprise to see them in there. Eventually it came to Sharrod of Port Adelaide. His kick partly smothered. Getting forward of the play though was Young. Chance for the Magpies to go forward. That could be Summit and driving it inside 50. But playing in front and taking a strong mark back there with Pat Guafrida. He goes by hand now to Thompson, and he'll go very wide. And taking the mark, Day. Day chips to Kane Mitchell. Second game as an Eagle today. Chain of handballs here from the Eagles. Bit of fumbly stuff down there. Raymond got it to Parry. He got it to Roundtree. Now Jared, all on half back by hand. Roundtree again involved. They slow it down back to Thompson, looking for some clear ball here at the moment, the Eagles. That kick went for Sumner. He got rid of his opponent, but the ball beats him over the boundary line.
Down here on the pine for the Magpies, Mackenzie, Madden and Thurgood starting down there for Ken McGregor.
1 metre! Just look, players obviously a bit of heat on early. Conditions aren't wet, but just looking a little bit fumbly at the moment. So just a bit of pressure at the start, which is always good.
Yeah, we might get two of the great things that players hate, rain and wind, as Meiklejohn just clears the area from the ruck contest out in the forward left pocket, and we'll have a look at the Eagles bench now.
We've got Dawson, Carpeney and Chris Kane starting down here on the pine for the Eagles.
So yeah, there's a fair old breeze around. You can see the trees in the background there just being whipped up. And there's just a hint with that cloud as well that we might see some rain. Lewis off the pack. Oh, his hand pass wasn't good. Summerton. Now Kirkwood. And by himself, Butcher. Left forward pocket. How did he get alone like that? With a scrambly ball out of there, was able to find him. And he'll go back and have a shot for goal.
Just having a look at that, I reckon he's got Eagles players, one in front, one behind, but no one actually with body contact on Butcher there. And a quick kick in, yeah, maybe a little bit lucky that it just hit the right spot, but someone needs to lock down him and let the other one zone off. I don't think you can have both zoning off in that situation.
7-5 on the season for John Butcher, and one out of bounds on the full to start his record this afternoon.
Way off target. John Butcher, he went goalless against the Bays. He did have a haul of 5 against Sturt. They've been slow starters this year, the Magpies. Haven't won a first quarter, and that was a chance to get an early goal. This kick will go towards a pack. Jared it was who spoiled over the top of Meiklejohn. Ground level, John Cock. Now there's a bit of contact in the back there, and he will get a free kick here. Big in, as you heard Chris Kendall say. 7 goals last time he lined up for the Magpies. Well, they're taking him back. Have a shot here, John Cock. Who knows what this breeze will do from here, Slatey?
He's awfully confident, though. He's just turned his back on play and just completely walked back. He'll be kicking from pushing 60 here.
He centres it, lets the breeze do some work. It did do some work, but not enough. And it's rushed through for the first score of the day. It's a behind to the Magpies.
Look, John Cock always looked like he was having a shot, but a few presenting forwards there probably could have taken a bit of pressure off that kick.
Eagles. Short to Sumner. Interesting decision from Cully. Sumner did have players around him, but he managed to pinpoint the pass, and now Cully works his way to the right back pocket. Down the line he goes. Looks for Ainger, or at the front was nicely taken by Thompson. So that ball dropped significantly in the breeze, and Thompson at the front then let himself down with the kick. John Butcher hit in the stomach.
That's it. It wasn't even above his head, was it? I think he just needs to get off the mark a little bit. He was only a couple of steps away and just kicked it straight into his stomach.
So Meiklejohn pushes over Parry, and Parry will take the free kick. So the Eagle grounded and received the free kick for it.
Jimmy, where you are?
Just a slow start to the game too. Not a lot of spark out there on the ground at the moment.
Let's kick it.
So Parry down the line.
Play on, play on, play on.
And the back Hall. I think that touched his left foot and then eventually went over the boundary line again. They've got to centre wing, the Eagles.
Has been lacklustre in his first few minutes, just waiting for someone to do something to spark the contest. Almost 5 played, just the one behind on the board. And you can see from that throw and the strength of that wind taking it to the south. It's going to be hard work for the Eagles in this quarter into that breeze. Roundtree's handball was intended for Powell, his partner in crime. Cully involved, now Day. Handball went back in board. Roundtree took on a tackler, had to dispose of it quickly. Magpies have got 2 here at this contest, and flying and taking a nice mark, Hoskin.
Play on, play on.
Just floated over the top, then pumped it inside 50, butchered the target, had hands to the footy, couldn't mark it. Ground level ball, Gray's been in great form this season. Hooking footy is going to go very close. Just too much hook on it, but he is dangerous around the goals.
Just a great spot there, just getting front and square. Well, that's not the one there, that's Hoskin's bar. But right front and square, which is where the ball goes most of the time. And a real clean take, then very dangerous around goals, Grays.
Raymond to bring the ball back in. And got it out 50 metres. Rose dived in on it. Umpire said too high. Roundtree the offender. Angus Roundtree actually doesn't have a really good record with the umpires either in terms of giving away free kicks. From memory last season, he was well into the negatives. So Rose lines up. He had a couple of players. One was Slattery just behind him, who was looking perhaps for the handoff. You think with this breeze he might be able to make the distance. The looks of it basically coming from behind him.
It's going to drop.
Going to drop right on the line. Hands to it on. Johansson out of the air gets the goal.
So very similar to, I guess, John Cock's kick. They're backing him to have a shot from outside 50. So the breeze is going to play a bit of a role. Just there, I mean, you need arm across there. Long kicks are usually rushed through for a point pretty easily. They were able to bring it forward there, and just not enough body contact with a sneaky goal there. Pretty clever as well.
So the 16-year-old
16.
getting us underway, and he doesn't play like a 16-year-old. Kicked 2 goals against the Bays. Super talent. And just to start Port Adelaide wanted, kicking with this breeze, can they put some space between them and the Eagles early and throw down the gauntlet? That hit down favoured Parry. He hit it back into some congestion. Players fighting for the ball. Eventually it came to Lewis, who uses his left, and you can see that ball hold up into that breeze. Probably travelled 5 metres shorter than it may have. Tackle laid by the Eagles. Ended up with Corey Beard. His kick was a beauty. And Luke Harder, in front of our broadcast position, takes a mark on centre wing. He's in need of a big game today, Harder. Just the 1 goal to start the season in his 3 appearances so far. Good spoil down there by Day on Thurgood. And Thurgood says hello as the ball goes over the boundary line, and we will have a throw in.
We can just see that it is very congested, and it's been pretty physical early, just because everyone's just going completely man on man. There's not a lot of zoning happening at the moment, so they're just backing each side to basically beat their opponent. Goldsworthy
away, kicks diagonally across the square. It favours Carpenter in the end, onto his left foot, goes long to the goal face, Angel by himself, and it just sat up enough for Beard to get in there with the fist. And behind play, the umpires picked out a free kick advantage, and then he took it back. No, the umpires were allowed to decide that it was an advantage. But anyway, so Beard will take the free kick. Squares it straight away. Port Adelaide got some runners. Hayes is the man who receives. Outside 50 now, keeps it low. The lead up from Gray. Looks back corridor. Summerton was the leader, but it really wasn't on. So he went down the line to Harder. Thompson opposed to him. Harder just ran straight into an opponent. Now Johncock can't get away. Defrida was the man bowled over, got up to make the tackle. Port lead by 8 points. And we've gone through nearly 9 minutes in this opening term.
And they're making a bright start, the Maggies. Meiklejohn hitting that one. Summerton has been in such good form now. Did he get front-on contact to the head? The interpretation on that one's been a bit different this year, I reckon, Slatey. A lot of them that were being paid last year aren't being paid.
That's right. There's a greater focus on from the knee down at the moment, so they're sort of eyeballing that, I think, this year.
Summerton, again, looked not to have the footy when he was tackled. Paul getting a kick forward, and that was partly smothered. It goes over the boundary line for a throw-in, and he looks like he'll get some close attention today, Summerton. Averaging 25 disposals a game for the first 3 games. Looks to be back right to his best. Finished outside the top 3 in the BNF at Port for the first time in a few seasons last year. The Eagles win this stoppage. It was Hall who got a kick towards the half-forward line. Corey Baird will track that back and see it over in front of Trent Allman. In fact, the kick's been picked out here, and it will go Allman's way, so he can play on quickly. He's a class kick, Allman. We have to pump it into the breeze. Tried for extra distance, miskicked it, came to Goldsworthy. Could work out okay. And he knows where the goals are, as Matthew Goldsworthy. He puts the Eagles on the board.
Yeah, very clever there, just casually on the left, and a very accurate kick. Just looking at some of the kicking forward, like they're holding up with that breeze, or the players that are trying to punch it, the kick's staying very low, so it will be very hard to judge the ball down there. I think the idea is just to be in front of your man and just try and hold down front spot. That one there, dropping short again. Goldsworthy, just a great kick on the left there. Didn't need a lot of time, knows where the goals are.
Probably half time before we can judge just how hard that was. In some ways,
yeah.
It'll be kicking into what breeze there is. They've managed to get a goal, the Eagles.
You'd say, yeah, every goal probably counts as 2, kicking that way at the moment.
So Redden's come into the ruck for the Eagles. Didn't get a hand on the ball. Roundtree almost with a clearance. Looked like he got taken high. Umpire called play on. Thompson got it back, and now it comes to Powell. And then Harder working hard. Goes with the name, really. Here's Hall. Hall did well, got possession, grubbered the kick forward. Hoskin, good presence of mind back to Hayes. Just gets it on the boot down the line for Butcher. Out positioned by Cully, who almost took the mark. Thurgood, and then Thompson, and then Thurgood came again, and still it's caught in there. That'll be a stalemate, surely. Umpire says yes. Just thought for a moment he might have paid holding the ball there.
He did let it go on.
Jared Redden the better of that, and inside 50, and Johncock almost took it. And Johncock's back over his man, looking for the free kick, but he won't get it. Right forward pocket, 25 metres out. Almost pulled it in.
Well, he definitely, it didn't look like he got his hands to it originally, but he did.
So now a whistle, and Johncock may get a kick on goal after all. He will. High tackle.
Yeah, he won't look to give off this time. As you can see, just casually cruising back to play.
Well, he's probably 15 metres closer to goal and on a better angle.
With a fair breeze too. This is just about positioning the ball in the right spot. It's obviously going to fade from left to right, so if you can sit it out on that left goal post and probably kick it well, it should just roll in nicely.
Look for him to sit this one up and let the breeze work.
And that's exactly what he's done.
Perfect.
Actually, it went pretty straight. He is going to
get number 2.
He's going to be very dangerous down there. You see, just presenting well then, got his hands under that one, was unlucky not to take the mark initially. Still fought it out to get the free kick. There he is, getting their first hands on the stoppage. So he is definitely going to give the Magpies a big boost today. Can play back if they need him to. So maybe when they're kicking into the breeze, who knows, they've got the flexibility to throw him back there.
Graham Johncock. He's actually coming to this game, had 7 goals, of course, from that performance at Norwood against Sturt. Umpire certainly taking his time for the bounce. Now Redden, advantaged by that, couldn't lay it down, followed up. Struggle in there to get the ball clear, and the umpire will go again. This time the ball will be just thrown in the air. So out wide, Somerton leads in the chase, slips the hand pass up for Young, who couldn't handle it. Well done by Carpeney in traffic, then he found himself in trouble. Tackle made by McKenzie, Somerton forward now. Gafrida, bad bounce from John Cock, palms it down towards Gray, and then back to John Cock, can shoot on goal for his second, and poster.
It's an interesting...
He's nothing if not dangerous.
He's very dangerous, isn't he? Involved twice there.
Now this kick-in showed a lot of it to Johansson, but Cully did well to take a mark. You hear the advice to hit the ball up short and into this wind. It will be a chip game for the Eagles. Raymond's handball to Jarrett, and he went very wide and found Thompson way out on the outer side. Thompson kicks short for Chris Hall, who's had quite a bit of it early. And Hall will go long towards centre wing. Contest down there. Angel was manhandled. He'll get a free kick. He's going to have a tough matchup today, I reckon, Angel, with Corey Baird. State player v state player. He'll go in short here, Angel. The target being Trent Orman. Rather, Jared Orman. Getting confused with Trent Orman Allen of years gone by. Now, Orman's gone really short. Finds Joyce. Joyce to Thompson. All by hand. The Eagles just trying to work it into this breeze. It's back with Orman now. This kick for Redden's pretty good. The big ruckman looks towards the broadcast side where he had Gafrida. Gafrida had Mitchell working really hard up short for him. He elected not to go that way. Instead, he'll give it to Jared. Floating pass on the left foot. He'll have to try and hook this back. The ball swirls in the air and Mitchell does end up with it. Probably luckily. Plays on quickly. Clever stuff. Went in short for Joyce. And he's taken a mark. And this won't be an easy kick into this breeze.
It won't. Just look, Mitchell working hard there. He presented up. Probably could have been hit the first time from the Jared kick. Let it go. Didn't give up. He persevered then into the space where Jared was running, looking to kick. And pretty smart there. Knew his range against the breeze and squared the kick up to a more realistic kicking area.
So Joyce, it's such a tumultuous summer, being caught up in the Kurt Tibbett saga.
Kicked that well.
That'll feel good. The Eagles have got 2 into the breeze. And that could prove significant goals into the win today. Joyce, who, as I mentioned, was delisted by the Crows and relisted over the summer, gets his first.
There's the Jared kick. It's a bit off the side. Mitchell didn't waste any time. Probably poor checking there by the poor players there with Joyce just sitting inside. Didn't panic the Eagles there. Just played a bit of possession ball. It wasn't fast, but they're probably just trying to buy a bit of time this quarter as well. And we're able to still work it in 50. I think Angel's going to get sucked down the ground, so it won't be kicking along to tools because he's probably just not going to get back there at the same time.
Boys, Aaron Day's been on the bench down here for about 10 minutes. Copped a knee to the kidneys in a marking contest. He's gone down into the rooms now, so we'll keep an eye on that one.
Meiklejohn with the palm down. Straight to Lewis, who beat a couple and then just poked the kick forward. Hayes going back. Finally secured it. Couldn't get rid of his man Joyce. Now Beard, he dropped it. Umpire said still play on. Hoskin looks around, goes to the non-preferred, sets it up, and that was a push. The smaller man in Somerton from behind. Lewis to take the free kick. Belts it into the wind. Not too bad. Big leap. Oh, can't bring it down though. Still battling on. Well done by Dawson. Gee, that was a big leap. He had a big chance to bring it down. He just couldn't complete it. Just off balance in the air, if you know what I mean. Meiklejohn with the palm. And that was in the backs of the umpire. So Goldsworthy rewarded. And we'll take the free kick. I mean, Danny Butcher with the tackle. So 3 points the margin in favour of Port Adelaide, but into what is a significant breeze, the Eagles with a chance to take the lead. The question will be distance.
It will. Look, Port players obviously anticipating that. They've lined up all across the line here. Eagles are backing him in. There's not too many of them down there, so they probably think he's got a pretty decent sized leg, and off the boot, not straight, but he distance wasn't a problem.
Minor score for Goldsworthy, 2 points the margin.
It'll be Hoskin who'll bring it in for Port Adelaide. It's a dangerous time for them. Feel like they need at least some sort of buffer at quarter time. That would have put the Eagles in front. Now Hoskin played on, kicked to himself and then got huge distance on that. Probably travelled 65 metres, but it could come back. Lewis, Mitchell, dangerous from here. Elected to handball into congestion. Danny Butcher, though, couldn't gather the footy. He's probably inhibited by his teammate there, Butcher. There will be a free kick the Magpies' way. And it's back where it started. Hoskin has the football. And he plays on. He's becoming a regular part of this Port Adelaide side, having a pretty good year so far. That's a nice kick. Bounces in front of Baird. He'll look up and see a lot of yellow and not a lot of black and white, and hence he didn't have much on and he's sprayed it out on the full. The kick in when the ball comes back will go Roundtree's way. Angus Roundtree having a good start to the year, the 2012 BNF winner. Magpies have dropped numbers back, so he goes short for Sumner. Sumner's handball wasn't handled by Powell. And then rather deliberately pushed over the boundary line, and the umpire was right onto that one.
Almost like a scrum half in rugby, the way that ball was thrown over the line by Somerton. Now Thompson goes very short. Joyce goes short, misses his man. He was looking for Mitchell. Port Adelaide crowd in over Allman. McKenzie was the man, his opposing number 11, who made the tackle.
Just a little bit scrappy at the moment. They've obviously a big focus on going short into this breeze and maybe running it with a bit of handball, but probably a little bit of overuse actually at the moment, which is restricting their ability to hit deeper targets.
Sharrod with a half a handball, if you like, out of there. Goldsworthy got it back. Carpeting working hard and over the boundary line eventually. So it's about 60 around from the goal face for the Eagles. Hard work. Breezy afternoon at Woodville. A grey day as well, but no real signs of rain. It's good work from Lewis, and then Sharrod did well as well. Intercepting now Gray. Over the top into space to Somerton. Usually pretty good with his disposal. Had to get it onto the left foot quickly, but it is inside 50. Eagles under pressure. Gafrida with a short kick. Dangerous. Jarrett on his left side. He does pretty well to Raymond. Raymond off the left foot. Goes short for Parry. They can come this side of the ground if they like, and they do to Kane. Kane wants to roll off and play on. Good decision now for Powell. And Powell down to half forward. Nice kick to Ainger. Ainger from 45. Can he carry the distance? He can, but the accuracy is astray. And in fact, he didn't quite get the distance, did he? It's kept in though. Ormond taken to ground. Umpire ruling in the back. Well, we get another look at this. I think Ormond pitched himself forward fairly well.
Probably a little bit unlucky. I reckon he swung him around first and then just ploughed him into the ground. So look, the free kick's definitely there. Just needed to fall sideways.
Ormond a left footer, so this angle a little bit tough for him.
That's it. Breeze will blow it across the face here.
He's looking for the banana. And he's looking pretty good. So the Eagles hit the front. Just in the opening quarter.
Just a piece of sloppy tackling there by Danny Butcher, which, especially kicking into this breeze, is a pretty crucial mistake, that one. And interesting choice to kick with the check side of there, but he certainly knew what he was doing. I think he's done that a few times before and made it look pretty easy.
Aaron Day about to come back into the action too, boys.
That's good news for them. He's down in the room for a little while. Had a year off the Eagles last year, Allman. Went back home and played in a premiership at Two Wells. There's BOG in the grand final down there. So he's kept himself in good nick, and they'd love him to be as good a player as he was in their 2011 premiership season. As Madden's been moved into the ruck, Parry easily gets over him. Now Goldsworthy's handball slipped to Harder. He goes inside 50. Thurgood, it just carries him. Back at the back was Grafrida. Thurgood also in there fighting for the ball. And this won't come out. Now what's the umpire paying here? He's paying holding the ball. Well, I don't know how Josh Thurgood was supposed to get that out, but it's going to go Jared's way. In fact, he'll give it to Gafrida to take the free kick. He's got Goldsworthy who's made space up the ground if he can reach him. Had to go and work for it, Goldsworthy in opposition to Slattery. Handball partly cut off. Hall was in there. Also McKenzie for Port Adelaide. And And the umpire will whistle this one up. It's just backward of half forward for the Magpies, who right now need a goal. With this breeze, they're trailing by 4 points deep in this first term. Slattery almost got his head ripped off, and he'll get a free kick and he can send the Magpies forward.
Just a bit sloppy there with that head-high tackle. Get low, look at the hips.
Slattery sets it up from behind. Butcher knocks it to the front. Raymond, though, with the rove. Straight off to the running machine in Mitchell, then Jared. And Jared drops it in short and misses his target. Rose, the intercept for Port Adelaide, 60 from goal. He looks up and he decides to go, well, he tried to go to Thurgood. Parry thought he was under pressure. And now McKenzie snaps for goal. And the only players back there are wearing the gold of the Eagles. So Cully goes wide to Thompson. Thompson just stabs that ball down towards centre wing. Sitting under it, Ormond. He's a left footer. I think he'd like to swing inside, but it's probably not advisable. He keeps it short. Sumner. So Sumner's still behind centre wing for the Eagles. Just holding things up. 24 minutes gone. He's content to hold things up and go backwards even. So Luke Jared now. Jared on this side of the ground has Joyce available. Can he get it that far? He looks to Joyce and he thinks twice about it. And now some of his options are taken up, so he goes to Parry. Parry peels off quickly to Day. Day through the centre of the ground. Looks okay from that run. He goes long and turns it over straight away to Scanlon for Port Adelaide, so they'll come the other way.
So the Magpies will look for a late one. They're ticking over towards 25 minutes first term as Scanlon goes wide for McKenzie. Elected to play on. This kick was intended for Johansson. He couldn't mark it, but he had back up. Rakawazza it is who beats a couple, ran 10 metres, and his kick was pretty good for Thurgood. Looks up and sees a lot of gold back, flooding back, so he had to go wide. Well done by Young to get it down. Johansson goes into the middle. McKenzie just bombs it in long. Down there was John Butcher, clears him. Ground level footy, can he get it to Gray at ground level? Tries to, but just doesn't quite come off, and the Eagles had plenty back there. Sumner had to handball under pressure though. Now Cully, he's tackled, held to him. Right on the goal line. Just getting a lot of numbers back at the moment, the Eagles into defence. Up it goes. They'll look to rush this one through, you'd think. In fact, they keep it alive for now. Gafrida, Lewis. Now bouncing out of defence is Roundtree, assessing his options. Had Joyce in short by hand, went to him. Kane, Powell, and the kick goes to centre wing.
Well, they'll come again, Port Adelaide, or they should. Meaglejohn couldn't quite take it. Rakawasa sliding over the top. Ainger quick to get a hand pass away. Powell, and now Mitchell. And Mitchell's got nobody in front of him. He's going to have to hold it up. He does it pretty well. They overlap to Goldsworthy from Powell. Powell, though, has only one option. He's going to find Carpenter, who'll come from behind. He almost pulled it off. Port Adelaide now with the numbers on the ground. And they'll go back out the other side through Hayes to Danny Butcher. Danny Butcher's got only one option, and that's short. So Gray still inside the centre square, defensive end of the centre square. He goes out wide, misses his target. Eagles now have numbers out there. Jared with support from Raymond and Thompson. The latter gets the ball, good blind turn, and then Raymond in support. Now Raymond, can he find a target? He keeps it low, and Lewis drops what he should have taken, flips it up for Parry, and now they turn it over as well, the Eagles. Summerton, boy, there's some scrappy play. Not from Johncock, good take, too much pace. No, Gafrida pulls him down, and they rush it through for the minor score.
Just an amazing tackle there. I think Johncock obviously thought he had him for pace, and just a desperate chase. You can see how crucial that is. And goals are a premium at the moment, so that is a costly mistake for Port.
Gafrida, after that brilliant chase, has turned it over the kick in. Gee, I reckon Johncock would have got around 9 out of 10 defenders in this comp. Now Young has got it. The man on the mark, Craig Parry, is on the 50. With this breeze behind him, he should back himself, Young. Right behind him here. Comes in, power listed player, hoists it high, but it's an ugly kick. And he's misjudged that breeze terribly, out on the full.
Yeah, not a great kick at all there. Look, the breeze is blowing, as we said earlier, across from left to right, so should have hung it out there. He actually ran that way, and that's where the ball started and even finished further wide. But look, distance wouldn't have been an issue, so having a shot was well within his right mind.
And there it is. Siren going to end the first quarter, and the Eagles have done a great job you feel into the breeze there. 3-1-19, leading Port Adelaide 2-4-16. Will have a big job in the second term.
Just looking at the wrap-up after that quarter, the weather conditions are dictating how the game's played. Eagles not looking to play the ball overly fast. They know that they're going to get sucked down the ground, so they were trying to run it with hands, play short, play possession football and get it in. So they did that pretty well. And to go in at that slightly up at quarter time, they'd be pretty happy with that. Port have got to be disappointed with, I guess, their ball use. A few easy skill errors that which effectively cost them that quarter.
It's quarter time at Woodville Oval, and it's the home side leading by 3 points.
So a 3-point game here at the Woodville Oval. The Eagles in front, kicking into the breeze in the opening quarter, and Port Adelaide still without a winning opening quarter this season. Let's have a look at how the round started this week, we should say, because Anzac Day, of course, was on Thursday, and it was at the Parade for the first time, and Norwood taking on West Adelaide, and certainly Westies had their moments.
They did. They started the game really well. Out to still leading at half-time as well. It was just from the half-time point onwards that they just found it really hard to score. Norwood really got their game going, and as they've done in the past, they just restricted West's ability to score, and West have been kicking big scores in earlier rounds but couldn't do on Thursday.
It wasn't a high-scoring game by any stretch of the imagination. 15 goals between the two sides, 9 to Norwood, 6 to West Adelaide. They led by 12 points, West Adelaide, at quarter-time, and by 10 at half-time. There was that incident, of course, between the coaches. Who knows how that affected the players one way or the other at half-time, but certainly it was Norwood that emerged the better side in the second half.
And we can also look at it as well. I mentioned earlier that Ferguson, who is very reliable in defence, wasn't playing, and Schmidt wasn't playing, so West would have came there with the attitude that we need to lift a little bit to replace these guys. Maybe Norwood took it a bit easy. That was certainly what it looked like in the first half, but they were able to get their game going. They both play a similar brand of football. Norwood, when they're up and running, do play it better.
Should mention also 6,000 plus at the game. SANFL football alive and well at the Parade. Brady Dorr with a big mark, a pack mark, and with the wobbliest of kicks, adding to his goal for the season. And we see here a big mark as well, taken by Webb, Daniel Webb for West Adelaide, but certainly they had a lot of possession. There were 384 possessions to 253, 98 marks to 55.
It's an amazing stat, isn't it? And look, they're a quality side. They've got a pretty good balance, Norwood, and I mean, sides can usually get themselves into trouble by using the ball maybe too much, but if you've got the skill level, then you can get away with it.
We're seeing a few of the high marks from this game, but certainly skill errors like that are going to kill you for a start, and Westies, they'd be very disappointed and that'd be an understatement of their second half, but they only added a couple of goals after half-time. They were trailing by 17 points at three-quarter time. The third quarter, it was 5 goals 4 to 1 goal 1, and that was a disappointment for West Adelaide, I'm sure, and for their coach. And just saw there the Matt Suckling being presented with the Bob Quinn Medal, 41 possessions and 9 marks, certainly deserving of the Bob Quinn Medal for best on ground in the Anzac Day match. So back to this match this afternoon, and it was a very interesting opening quarter, a tough quarter, and certainly one that, well, the Eagles would be pretty happy with if you look through those statistics, because really they weren't dominated like we thought they might be by Port Adelaide.
No, they weren't. I reckon the telling stat there is, and you can see the way they played this out because of the win. If you look at handballs, it's 59-13. So they weren't just going to blaze with the kick. Port were getting numbers back, so they were just running it, using that handball, trying to keep possession and buy the clock down.
And Chris Kendall, you've been listening at ground level to the Eagles.
Certainly have there. Mick Godden's reasonably happy with how things are going down here, but he wants to see more support for the runners, particularly when they're moving into space. Wants some of the bigger guys to try and lay on some more of those blocks on that side of thing. Kane Mitchell got a really big rap there for his work off the ball there as well, and he's been very crucial for them so far. Just wants them to work a little bit on their field kicking as well. Now that they've got the win, just need to take a little bit of meat off of those kicks, but so far reasonably happy with how things are going.
Thanks, Chris. Just an apology. We apparently lost a lot of vision in that opening quarter. We had some problems with the wind as it got up, and as a result, if you've missed some of the quarter, we apologise. But at quarter time, it's the Eagles kicking into the breeze, who lead by a couple of points. Ken McGregor, we see he's a former Eagle in charge of the Port Adelaide Magpies lineup. He's with Chris Kendall right now.
Certainly is. Ken, you had the breeze there. Do you feel like you used it to its maximum that quarter?
Oh no, definitely not. I think we were pretty disappointing that quarter, so I'm hoping for a response this one.
John Cock has been very good up there as the smalls. You're looking for some of the other smaller players to try and give him a bit of support, because we know the Eagles are going to zone to John Cock first.
Yeah, obviously they're going to get around Tim, but we've got Butcher up there as well, who's also a dangerous forward. But I just thought our forward pressure and our obviously defensive pressure was nowhere near good enough for that quarter.
Still well in touch to turn it around though, Ken. Three quarters to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still confident and we're hoping for a better result this quarter.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks very much to Ken McGregor for giving us his time. There's the man he was talking about, Graham Johncock, up forward. Pat Grafrida did so well to run him down late in that quarter. Again, apologies if you did miss some of the opening term because of the problems we've had with the wind here, but I think we'll be right for the rest of the afternoon. It's a 3-point game in favour of the Eagles, and here's Kim Morgan to get us underway.
Just about all set. Second quarters haven't been the Eagles' strong point so far this year. They've conceded 10 goals and kicked 4 in their 3 second quarters to date. That would give Port Adelaide a bit of hope, but certainly the platform laid for the Eagles, outscoring Port into this strong breeze. We'll get an update from Chris Kendall soon as to the strength of that wind. Magpies may come straight away here. Gray got a handball to Slattery, who kicked a low worm burner. Butcher was the target. He ended up laying a tackle on Sumner, who got a handball to Cully. Went back in and tried to win it again, did Sumner. He's been a real revelation since he came back to the Eagles, Byron Sumner. By his own admission, probably didn't make the most of his AFL opportunity, but he's been a star since he got back. 2 really good games this year. Chance for Port Adelaide to come clear again. Gathering the footy there was Sharrod. Ended up having to lay a tackle. In fact, there's going to be a whistle here. He's won a free kick back, Sharrod. B&F in the Magpies reserves last year. So kick this into the teeth of the wind. That ball gets carried towards the outer side of the ground. Chance for Butcher off hands. John Butcher snaps, John Butcher goals, and the Magpies retake the lead.
A much needed goal there and a good start to the quarter. This will be the telling quarter here, how the Magpies can respond to this, also into the breeze. They've definitely got out to a good start. You see Butcher, it looks completely out of position here, so look, a bit of luck there. He's just timed that. It's pretty good to watch, but he probably did get caught out of position, but roved it well nonetheless, and straight on the boot with a good goal.
Breeze is still fairly strong down here, boys, but it's quite a high breeze, and by that I mean longer, low passes into the wind more than anything else. Gives it less room for the wind to catch it.
John Butcher better on the snap, you would say, than his set shot he had in the first quarter. Sailed with that breeze, out of bounds on the full. It's interesting, in that opening quarter they kicked 2-4 with one of those behinds rushed and 2 out on the full as well as that, the Port Adelaide side. So out of the middle they go forward this time. Joe Redden pulls it in, tries to release a hand pass, umpire calling play on. Rakawasa got one out as well, and now Shawley will... No, the ball's just popped out for a moment. Joyce managed to wrestle it away, but finally we'll get that ball up. So Meiklejohn does pretty well. Ball just hanging in that breeze, and then Thompson went to ground, just stumbled a bit, back to Lewis. Somehow he smuggled it today, and then inboard they went. Dangerous kick, couldn't find Raymond. Gray, now Raymond just comes through, releases it for Powell. He goes high around the corner, hoping for Redden, and the ball just knocked through for the minor score for the Eagles. 2 points to the margin.
Just big numbers around the stoppage at the moment. We're really crowding it. I guess both teams are going to try and slow the game down and stop play into the breeze, so that's why it's so hard to get a clean handball out at the moment.
Hoskin went really short for Scanlon. Now, it'll be a free kick here to Port Adelaide to Rakawasa, and it was interfered with in that marking contest. He's been a revelation since he came into the side early last season. Rakawasa, Fijian heritage. He kicks this really high. That probably went 25 metres, I reckon, into that breeze, and about 25 metres high as well. Pack of players around this one. Roundtree, as he so often is trying to do some work at the bottom of that pack. And gee, that ball held up noticeably into the breeze.
I don't think it's spun right either, but I wouldn't be putting that all down as the wind either.
No.
It just looked terrible off the boot.
I think they call them a shank. Up it goes. It's backward of centre wing for Port Adelaide. We're going to have to try and run the footy into the breeze. This kick's dangerous. It could go one way or the other here. A one-on-one in the middle. Cavalry arrived. In the end, Day, who's back on the ground, and Mitchell. We know he loves to run. Rennie's full measure there. Gets to the 50-metre line and just sprays it a little bit wide. And this breeze so tricky. It goes through for a behind.
Mitchell, big boost for the Eagles. He's come in, he's made a real impact already this game, and just gives them a bit of drive, doesn't he? He's good around goals. He gives them run around the centre as well. So, yeah, a good in for the Eagles.
Sandover medalist last season, Kane Mitchell. You can see why he catches the umpire's attention. He's certainly quick and he can burst like he did that time. Here's Gray for Port Adelaide out of defence. He tries to punch the ball to Butcher. And Butcher with long arms almost pulled it in. Off the ground, Summerton. John Cox should take it and does. Nobody, though, forward for the Magpies at the moment, so they have to run this. Summerton was clever. Tried to put it into the path of Butcher. He goes after it, and he's taken just as he got the kick away. No. He was outside the boundary line when he finally made contact. The umpire will call it back. 25 around from the Port Adelaide goal face.
Boys, a measure of the respect that the Eagles have for Jake Johansson. Phil Raymond's got a hard tagging role on him now.
Well, he's destined for a very good football career if it all goes well for him. As Parry hits this one down. Magpies have started this quarter okay. Gray gathers it, had heard Summerton's voice, but he missed him. Hall got a handball to Jared. His toe poke. It's going to come back. This kick will come in board. Danny Butcher or Thurgood there. Again, the footy swirled around in the wind. And it's Thurgood who's got it. That kick won't be 15, you heard the umpire say. Hayes on hands and knees. Did well there, Hayes. Got it to Scanlon. He kicked in the direction of Butcher or John Cock. Neither could mark it. Gafrida at ground level got it to Jared. And Jared ran and pumped it long. He'll be looking for Ainger here. He's got behind the Magpie defenders, Ainger. He will look down and he'll only see Jared Redden one out. He'll now pump it in that direction. Can this get over the back for Goldsworthy? Redden brought it to the front. The Magpies have some numbers there. Gray it is who gathers the footy under real pressure. Now Hayes, now Hoskin, and he thumps the ball along centre wing.
Held up in the breeze again. Numbers with the Eagles. Day looks inside. Oh, he's carried a bit far, but fortunately found Parry. Now Raymond's got a bit of space to work in. He takes it first time, and then down to half forward was good. Oh, just dropped there. Bad mistake by Joyce. Now it comes back. Sharrod. Johansson taken. Umpire will call play on advantage as Sharrod was taken down late. So Hansen across the centre to Gray. Gray looks to John Cock at half forward. Good lead by John Cock. Knew where the ball was going. Open 50, but nobody there as such. And so he goes over the top to Summerton. And Jared came late and was able to take the ball away. And, well, he went to ground, but got it back to Parry. And now, interesting hand pass by Parry. He set up Gafrida, was good enough to get it out. Working hard, Sumner, now Day. For a side kicking with the breeze, it's pretty labour intensive by the Eagles. Finally, Jarrett. Raymond's free again. Raymond goes to centre half back and then sends it wide. And Ainger looked to be tunnelled by Corey Beard, and so as a result, Ainger will take the free kick. He just belts it long. One out was Jarrett, but he's 1 against 2 as it turns out. Ball to the ground, and a good result for the Eagles out of bounds in the left forward pocket.
It was actually better than getting the contest. Ainger trying to get it in quick, but it ended up being a 2-on-1, and with 2 other Port players streaming in there. So it's going to be a congested forward line by opposition players for, I think, the whole day.
A lot of black and white down there, making it hard to find space for the Eagles. Hall at ground level. Can he farm out a handball? He does. Doesn't get to Ainger, and Port Adelaide have a lot of numbers. Beard to Gray. Gray looked for Rose, had to dive, almost trapped the footy. It just ran away from him, but he got a high one from Thompson anyway. Rose played on. He'll have to go backwards now to Beard. So can Port Adelaide look after the footy into this wind? Beard for Scanlon. On fullback. Kirkwood's been a bit quiet so far by his standards. He's had a good start to the season. For Beard, probably 6 possessions. They're still inside defensive 50, Port Adelaide. Now Scanlon can run it out. Neat chip kick for Micklejohn. Back for Scanlon. He must have had 4 possessions in that passage. Butcher's in the front position. He was manhandled. by Cully. Play on advantage. Summerton, what will he do? He'll go long and kick it one out to John Cock and Guafrida. John Cock, did he play for that? Umpire said he was infringed, and he can go back. And this would make it 2 goals into the breeze without the Eagles scoring one.
Probably a bit lucky there. There might have been a bit of a free kick in there, but he certainly overplayed it, you'd think. Hardly touching, you can see there. And Tony Day, I think he was tossing up whether or not. He didn't want to, I guess, not give it in case it was there, so he's paid the benefit of the doubt on that one.
That's what you call accentuating the contact. He made sure Tony Day noticed. It's a big kick. Give Port Adelaide a big lift if John Cock can kick number 2 for the afternoon. Comes in, gun barrel straightens the kick. That's a beautiful kick into the wind, and Port Adelaide now go to 4 goals 4, and they've got a 7-point lead.
A very good kick there, hardly moved at all, especially with this breeze still playing a major role in this game. But John Cock proving to be the danger man down there. John Butcher getting sucked down the ground, which leaves Graham John Cock pushing hard forward and being in there 1 out, which is probably going to be the way that they're going to kick the goals this time.
One thing, boys, TV doesn't do justice to Kane Mitchell's pace. His pace in that first 5 to 7 metres is like nothing I've seen for a while. He just finds space so quickly.
Mitchell, bottom of screen on centre wing now, wearing number 43. Good news for the Eagles is, with the situation with Port Adelaide, he will qualify if he can stay fit for the finals. Likely to be upgraded later in the season from the rookie list as Beard takes it, defensive half-back for Port Adelaide, down the line and out of bounds in that interchange area. Conveniently so for Gray, who interchanges with Zane Kirkwood, coming to the bench for Port Adelaide. So Parry just going to ground very easily. I thought Meiklejohn was the infringer, according to the umpire, and so as a result, Craig Parry to take the free kick, and he just drops it in short. Strong lead up by Dawson. Round on the left foot. I don't think that's his natural leg. Didn't look like it anyway. To centre half forward he went to Ainger, who dropped it. Port Adelaide as a result away, and with numbers they try and run the ball up. Hayes caught in a lot of trouble, surrounded by Eagles. This will be play on advantage. And so Dawson inside 50 again with a kick, that one. Ainger just misjudged over the back, Redden. The big man moves slowly and he's gobbled up by Rakawasa. And now Hoskin there for Port Adelaide in support, taken to ground by Joyce. Umpire looks at it. We'll have a ball up right forward pocket for the Eagles. They trail by 7 points and they're kicking with the breeze in this second term.
It's been a great 11 minutes for the Magpies to start this second term. 2 goals into the wind and haven't conceded one yet. As Rakawaza gets that footy from the stoppage and goes to Thurgood, who's played at both ends so far. This kick, well, how do you describe that? It's a 15-metre pass to his direct opponent.
Look, he's done that a couple of times. He dropped one in the first quarter, very short, kicking off half a step. I don't even know if he got to a full 1 step then. We talk about, especially in pressure situations and on the last line, which is where he was, just head over the ball and taking a few steps and kicking through it. And Thurgood there, he just, I don't even know if he took 1 step and just poked at it. And look, a very costly error. And they had a bit of a run on their Port. They were doing pretty well leading into the halfway mark of this second quarter.
Ainger hadn't kicked a goal until that point, and then he was gifted one, and he's not a player you want to give goals to. He has kicked 8 on the season, and he's a dangerous player. He gets a free one there, and the Eagles close to within a point.
There it is, just there. Well and truly short of the target that he was aiming for. Just needed to run that one out. Just a bit careless on the kick, but that is a gift, and I think Kenny McGregor will be pretty angry with that because he would have been proud of his side up to that point.
Michael Godden was very keen to get a message across down to the bench. He came all the way down from the coach's box to deliver it. It's gone all the way straight back up again.
Andrew Ainger, crossing from South Adelaide in the off-season.
Watching! Hold it! Don't push him in!
Umpire again taking his time with the bounce. Meiklejohn across the line and umpire said you're blocked. So Parry to take the free kick. Quickly out the back to Jarrett, the left footer who can kick the ball long, and that's what he does. Ragawassa sat at the front though. Beat Redden pointless that time. Took an uncontested mark. And then dropped it short to Sharrett. Well, they want to move the ball, Port Adelaide. Their skills sometimes letting them down in this quarter. Summerton's ball sits up. Day, John Cock, and then gave it back to Day. Now he went out the back to Cully, who put himself under pressure with the fumble. Support from Parry. They're mucking around with the ball now, the Eagles. John Cock almost got Roundtree. Meiklejohn smothered the kick now, Hall. And he goes forward to Goldsworthy. Hall was taken late. Umpire called play on advantage. It's got all the way to Lewis, 70 from goal. He's got some support. They work it again into the forward 50, the Eagles, but they just can't take advantage. Good pressure from Port Adelaide. Finally Hall. And then he goes outside to Carpeney, who squares it up. And again, Rakawasa, pointless, playing in front, beating his opponent in Redden.
He's doing some good work in this quarter. Now Thurgood, he'll try and go long this time, and he does. It's a beautiful kick, in fact. And Rose stopped that ball dead. The mark was paid. Short kick for Beard. He marks the footy. So big 15 minutes or so coming up to end this second half. We're virtually on level terms now. The Eagles, you have to think, could blow it out if Port Adelaide can't keep their intensity up. They've come right back inside 50 here. Scanlon's had a lot of the ball in this quarter, and he goes wide for Hoskin. Hoskin's chip ball. Summerton, who always racks up big numbers, has got it. So the Magpies are holding on to the footy at all costs here. Slattery back for Summerton. None of these kicks have travelled more than about 20 metres.
The crowd's getting a little bit irritated by this too. It's only the 16-minute mark of the second quarter. We can see what role this wind's playing in this game.
Scanlon had it back for Summerton. He goes for Rakawasa, and the Eagles have got to man some of these defenders up here for Port Adelaide. Now they come to Gray, who went really short. That was barely 15 metres, and it's paid 15 to Kirkwood.
So in Kirkwood, I understand Central's had a look at possibly recruiting him over the summer. He goes wide for Danny Butcher, who half-volleyed it. Now they've turned it over. Bad mistake. Lewis inside. Here's Mitchell. Wants his right foot. Got around two. Did pretty well. Couldn't get the kick away. Well smothered by Slattery coming late. Mitchell follows up with a tackle. It's smuggled out of there. Hoskin for Sharrett. Then Sharrett's hand pass back wasn't great. Summerton, Kirkwood. And now Scanlon. Oh, and he dropped it. Kirkwood follows up. Goldsworthy on the ground with possession. He can't get clear. Danny Butcher got him. Umpire says, no, I'll have the ball.
Just at the moment, Eagles have got the advantage with the breeze, and they're still worried about pushing numbers back, where they need to just, I reckon, push up, man up, shut Port down quickly, and then look for a turnover. It took too long before.
So pressure building at this end of the ground. It's been down there for a couple of minutes. Will the dam wall burst for Port Adelaide? Another stoppage. The longer they hold up, the better their prospects of winning the game are. If they can go in somewhere near square at half-time, they'd be really happy. Gray, did he get a high one? Had to handball on hands and knees. Rakawasa did well to emerge. Now, how would the umpire see this one? He'll say it's a trip. Just the tackle may be slipping a bit low. And they are going to keep this chip game going. Scanlon must have had big numbers in this quarter. Beard's got it on the broadcast side of the ground now. To Rose. All these Magpies racking up stats at the moment. Summerton. Scanlon again, and they refuse to man him up for the moment.
Eagles still having spares in the middle of the ground and pushing them back. They need to come down and man these guys up so they can't wind the clock down with this possession football that they're pretty keen to do at the moment.
Hayes, four-time premiership player at Central District, 100-game player there. Now a Magpie to Rakawasa. And this has probably been a 90-second period of footy without the Eagles touching it. That kick was, to coin a phrase from another commentator, centimetre perfect, and Beard has marked it on the boundary line.
Young,
brothers Young.
Yep. So Young down the line. And they want this out of bounds now, Port Adelaide, but instead Day comes over the back. It's quickly a matter of how fast the Eagles can spread, and Day taking his time makes it hard. So Day goes down the line with a little chip over the top for Hall. He decides to go back and go over the man on the mark as well. Centres up, dangerous kick. Sumner gets around one. What's the delivery like? Sumner turns it straight over. Thurgood read it best. Took the chest mark. Spreads it wide, Gray. He hasn't got much down the ground. He's got to find Johncock with this kick. Jared came late, knocked it away. Scanlon across. I wonder if that's a kick. Now Gray. Then the hand pass comes back, finds Jared. Now Powell with a chance. And he goes high, and Dawson was the target, but Rakawasa there forces it to the front. Young to Rose, and Rose has got a player ahead of him, Madden, if he can find him, and he does quickly, puts it into his path at least. As he goes down to half forward, he's decided to do that. Interesting lead from Slattery, who led back at an angle, which into the breeze wasn't the best idea. At that time, though, his presence of mind was good. He got it out to Butcher. He's not bad on the left foot. He opts to go back to Johansson, who tries to think his way through it. Does pretty well. Gets the shot away. Johncock perhaps the target, and he's beaten that time by Lewis. The taller man takes it away. The Eagles on the rebound.
Lewis found Jared, and they might go the other way, the Eagles. He ran his full measure, Jared, and then kicked long. It's a one-on-one down here at centre wing. Ball to ground. Big contest to be won there. Good effort that time by Joyce. Bouncing footy in front of Ainger. Didn't have anyone around him, had to handball into space. Getting out there now is Dawson. Hayes as well. Boundary line looming, but Goldsworthy's kept it alive. He'll try and get back on his left. Kicks to two Magpies, and maybe this will come back out the other side. Baird marks, and he releases Thurgood.
Madden's made space again for Somerton. Then it's McKenzie over the top. If he goes to him, that might cause a problem because Mitchell had just come off the bench, and I don't think McKenzie was aware of that. So as a result, back inside they go. They just hold up again, and turnover. Here's Mitchell, just fumbled the ball, allows Madden to come in, took it away from him pretty well. Did he get one high? Umpire said yes. Game of cat and mouse at the moment. Redden over the top, couldn't take it. On the ground though, he couldn't take it away either. Cully perhaps got one high, and eventually he goes over the line, and the umpire says throw it in. It is contested football, but it's scrappy football.
It's very contested. Look, Eagles still seem paranoid about building that wall across the centre and keep driving the ball in, but the sad thing is there's no one up forward to drive it to. So it's just turning over every time.
Throw in. Hoskin was in there. Roundtree tried to release Mitchell. Beautiful handball. That was poetry. Gathering at Hall. Can he go all the way? He saw a jumper at the corner of his eye, and he's got him. Marking the ball was Raymond, and the arm wrestle that had ensued for 10 minutes or so is over. The Eagles get a major.
Once again, set up by Mitchell there. That speed again, and a very effective handball inside, but took it away from the stoppage too. He is very dangerous in there. There's the handball we see there, out in front too, didn't even have to break stride. And as it came into Raymond, there was about 4 Port guys in there, so I don't know how he's found that space, but he has, and an effective kick and enabled him to play on and kick that goal. But Port just a little bit loose there. They had the numbers back there, but just somehow let him slip out the back.
First score for 9 minutes. So after the Eagles had gone back through Ainger's goal at the 12-minute mark, Raymond kicks their second for the quarter at the 21-minute mark. And now back in the centre. Important time for the Eagles now. Port Adelaide similarly at the end of the first quarter. They had opportunities, they couldn't capitalise, kicking with the breeze. Now it's the Eagles. That was a throw. Roundtree pinched. And so Scanlon will take the free kick for Port Adelaide. Off the back end of the centre square. Out to Hayes, and he just goes back defensive 50 where Thurgood was yelling and screaming saying I'm by myself. He turns away for Kirkwood, who'll try and find Beard. He keeps it low and Beard slides into it. Beard probably shaving something off his knees as he slid in there. So here's Thurgood, and nobody comes to him, and the umpire eventually will call play on. He doesn't have to. Thurgood stabs a pass. This time it's effective. Madden was the man who's been the outlet a couple of times from defensive 50 for Port Adelaide. Well, they are sticking to the game plan. Madden decides to go wide with that ball when nothing presented, and Sumner got that fist across and knocked it out of bounds away from Slattery.
Like a game of chess, as we've said. Or in some ways a bit like a game of soccer with keeping's off in the back half for Port Adelaide at the moment. They just want to eat up clock. The Eagles, Roundtree had it momentarily. Hall just got it on the boot. They're trying to get it in quickly. Ball goes over the back. That tumbled to Thurgood. Numbers back. Rakawaza. Now off the bench is Micklejohn on the broadcast side. Can Summerton spot him? Does now. He had to go down to half-back to get it though, Micklejohn. He's having an interesting struggle on the ruck, the 150 gamer. With Parry. Wouldn't be too many 150 games at Port Adelaide without a premiership. His kick was intended for Butcher. Was at his feet. Magpies win it back. Johansson was crunched by Jared as soon as he got it. Welcome to league footy, young man. Now the ball's played on. Can Mitchell get it back from Jared? In the end, it was Thompson getting it to Kane. Kane kicks inside 50. And again, the Magpies' defence is going to get there first. Hoskin was tackled as soon as he got it. He won't mind getting the boundary line.
Oh, it's lucky to get away with that. Hoskin, very casual there. Just took the ball and didn't expect to have a lot of heat on him, but clearly not the case.
So 25 around for the Eagles goals again. Micklejohn reaches over the top, keeps it to the front. Gray took one high. Umpire will pay that.
Lots of free kicks from just sloppy tackles and riding people into the back. Bit of that could probably clean up.
Corey, I'll give you a moment, but Josh Thurgood, that mark there, I'd like to know what his stat is for the quarter with marks and how many possessions he's had, because he's wasted another one there.
Turnover kicks, yeah.
Powell just looking to get it out of there in the tackle. Rakawasa Rose now, and now Gray, and they break away Port Adelaide. How briefly, though, you wonder. Well, they won't get the opportunity through Slattery into the breeze after half-time siren. He decides to have a ping at goal. It was never going to make it. So half-time here. It was a little bit tortuous, that second quarter, but it's a 5-point lead for the Eagles at half-time. 5-3-33 to Port Adelaide, 4-4-28.
Just looking at that, look, Ken McGregor will probably be pretty happy with that. Still a fair breeze going on. Probably wasn't overly entertaining from a crowd's perspective there or viewers, but you couldn't hold it against the Magpies. They wound down the clock and just kept maintaining possession. I thought Eagles, Godden might be a little bit angry with that. They had the wind advantage. They just needed to probably come down and even man up and make it a 50-50. They could have then reduced the amount of turnovers they had kicking the ball in forward. So a little bit disappointed. Didn't really use the advantage. Played too defensively, I think, the Eagles. But now we've got a ball game, so the quarter could be the game could be determined by this quarter coming up.
So it's half-time at the Woodville Oval. The home side, the Eagles, lead by 5 points. Round 5 of SANFL football, but it was round 4 last weekend in the under-18 competition. Let's have a look at what unfolded. South Adelaide under-18 coach Tony Bamford challenged his side to start last Saturday's home game against Sturt with intent, and he got the response he was looking for. The improving Panthers had been slow out of the blocks in their opening 2 matches, conceding 4-goal quarter-time leads in both of them. But against the Double Blues, South opened with a fierce attack on the ball, beating Sturt in contested possession and unlucky not to head to the first break in front. Pocket dynamo Daniel Caleb was leading from the front for the home side, continuing his outstanding start to the season with a brilliant performance which showcased both his ability to win the ball and to dispose of it with class. Ex-Sacred Heart student Lachlan Hartsham is also starting to feel at home at Noarlunga after crossing from Glenelg over the summer. The running defender played his best game in Panthers colours over the weekend, his ball use a feature. Up forward, ex-Kangarilla junior Michael Ross was kicking goals, 4 of them for the match, as the Panthers continued to push Sturt through the second term. But Sturt was always going to be a hard side to contain for 4 quarters, and after half-time, the Double Blues running game kicked into gear. Overage player Nick Langridge was particularly damaging, the wingman running rampant in the second half to finish the match with 5 goals. In the ruck, Henry Voigt was superb for Sturt, and if he keeps playing like this, he'll have some thinking to do at season's end. Voigt is a member of the SA Redbacks Emerging Talent Cricket Squad. The fast bowler also a member of SA's National Championship winning under-19 team over the summer. Sturt turned a 14-point half-time advantage into a 39-point lead at the final change and would go on with the job. Ex-basketballer Henry Carey has been pushed into the midfield for the Double Blues this season, and he gave them drive all day long, while tight-checking Hahndorf Football Club product Jacob Leake was typically miserly down back. In the end, it was the Double Blues by 66 points. Central District's struggles in the under-18 competition are a concern for the SANFL at large, and last Saturday things went from bad to worse. Up against a Glenelg side with a full head of steam and with access to all of its college players, the Doggies were always going to be up against it at Elizabeth. From the opening, a polished Glenelg outfit began to expose the class gap, and if not for some inaccurate kicking, would have led by more than 26 points at quarter time. Billy Stretch, the son of former West Torrens and Melbourne wingman Stephen, doesn't have his father's size yet, but he has his class. The young forward racked up 34 disposals last Saturday and kicked 6 goals. His football smart's obvious for all to see. Stretch's Sacred Heart College schoolmate Elliot Chalmers was also running rampant for the Tigers, the bottom major almost catching weather poisoning by the end of the day, finishing with 37 touches. By half-time, the Tigers had blown the margin out to 55 points, and despite the undermanned Central lineup fighting hard, things didn't get any better after the break. Central's backman, though, deserved credit for the way they battled. Gawler Central product Jackson Harvey is just 16 and has already played reserves level trials at Elizabeth, and he showed why last Saturday with some composed play as a sweeping defender. Trinity College student Dylan Weaver was another who showed some good skills across half-back, while former South Gawler product Brian Bain gave everything he had for the Dogs, also in defence. Captain Bray McConnell, now playing at fullback, also acquitted himself well. But this would be another tough day for Central, the Tigers extending their break to 87 points by the final change. Emmanuel College ruckman Peter Sperling had midfield-like numbers for the Tigers, finishing the day with 25 disposals to go with his 25 hitouts, many of them finding his schoolmate Lucas Kanga. A strongly built midfielder, Kanga has shaken off some niggling injuries and played his best game of the season. His clearance work a feature as the Bays continued to clear out on the scoreboard. In the end, it was the Tigers by 112 points, the Dogs suffering their 4th triple-figure loss in as many starts this season. Undefeated North Adelaide expected a stern test when it hosted top 5 side West Adelaide at Prospect. The game between two of the early pace setters had the making of a great contest, but it would fail to deliver. The tone for the game was set in the opening quarter when a red-hot Roosters lineup kept Westies goalless and booted 4 majors at the other end with a powerful display of pressure football. Overage player Luke Trenorden arrived at North post-Christmas after being unable to make Glenelg's senior squad, but is quickly finding a home at Prospect. The big ruckman was a dominant force in the middle, and every time he went forward he seemed to bob up, take a mark and kick a goal. By the end of the match he had 4. What Luke didn't mark, his cousin Henry Trenorden was often up there to mop up. Also an overager, Henry finished the match with 35 touches and a goal to press his claim for a match at reserves level. By half-time, the Roosters had blown the margin out to 42 points. The Bloods held to just 1 goal, and North wasn't about to let up. Skipper Matthew Nye continues to do the job for coach Tim Weatherald across half-back, the youngster sweeping everything up and using the ball well during a 28-possession game. And he was ably supported by his vice-captain and fellow half-back Cam Sandico. The Gulfview Heights teenager has barely been beaten in a one-on-one contest all year, standing some of the opposition's best key forwards, and he's certain to come under consideration for state under-18 selection. By three-quarter time, the Roosters had blown the margin out to 68 points, the Bloods for the most part failing to fire. One Westies player who could hold his head high was overage backman Kieran Nielsen, the former Goodwood Saints junior never dropping his head and winning plenty of the ball. Bloods ruckman Ryan Sinister gave Luke Trenorden a good contest in the ruck. Sinister has just started a roof plumbing apprenticeship and he often plays as if he's another midfielder. But overall it was a disappointing day for the Bloods, the Roosters home by a whopping 90 points to move to the top of the table. On paper, Woodville West Torrens round 4 clash with Norwood at Woodville Oval promised to be the match of the round. Norwood, playing the structured brand of football that's made it so hard to beat across all grades in recent years, started the better. Overage player Anthony Giannini was dominant on his wing for the Legs, the former Marriottville High student pressing his case for a recall to the reserves with his run, carry and neat use of the ball. Up forward, Tea Tree Gully Football Club bred bottom ager Ryan Llewellyn was presenting well, and by quarter time Norwood led by 13 points. Steve Baldasso, fresh off a monster game against Central District, was at it again for the Redlegs, doing some of his best work in the first half en route to a 30-possession, 2-goal game, while talented defender Mac Bowell was winning his battle with the dangerous Eagle Tasman Fitzgerald. With former Hope Valley junior Daniel Williamson also winning plenty of the ball in the midfield, Norwood pushed its advantage out to 20 points at the long break, and the Eagles had some thinking to do. Their coach Shane Grimm urged his side to make better decisions with the ball, and that advice, coupled with the sheer hard work of his players, began to turn the contest. Giles Ellis, an overager who hails from Kadina on the York Peninsula, may not have won a heap of the ball, but some of his defensive efforts were important. Another pair of country lads, Clare Valley duo Riley Knight and Daniel Minnie, were also having an influence, and by three-quarter time Norwood's lead had been trimmed to a tenuous 9 points. Minnie's effort was particularly noteworthy. The youngster was playing his first game in Eagles colours. Fittingly, the last quarter was an arm wrestle, with former Seaton Ramblers junior Paul Ventura leading the way. The Eagles quickly took the lead and had all the momentum behind them, but Norwood fought back and several lead changes ensued. At the 26-minute mark of the term, Redleg Nick Passini had a shot at goal to give his side back the lead. He missed, and the Eagles held on to win a classic by 5 points to remain undefeated. So just to look through those margins, and they're all big, apart from, of course, the last game. Sturt by 66, Glenelg by 112, North by 90 points, and the Eagles by just 5 points over Norwood. So that's our look at the under-18 competition last week in round 4. Let's move on to the look interstate. We're going to start with the VFL.
The reigning premiers from Geelong were looking to continue their undefeated season when they hosted Box Hill, who was coming off a confidence-boosting win over Essendon a week earlier. The Cats got the ball rolling after a terrible turnover from Box Hill resulted in a Jordan Murdoch major, but the Hawks responded before quarter time.
He's all on his own. This is where the pass is going. Got plenty of time, and he'll run in to kick a goal.
With just a point separating the two teams at the first change, Geelong's Daniel Menzel was able to give the home side the lead after some great work from his teammates in the middle of the ground. But ex-Cat Jonathan Simpkin had plans to spoil the party.
There needs to be a contest here from the Box Hill player at the back. Here's Simpkin, found some space, bouncing ball through for a goal.
Unfortunately for Geelong, tragic news soon followed when Menzel was escorted off the ground with what was later confirmed to be his 4th ACL injury. 16 goalless minutes started the second half until Box Hill finally broke the drought when some silky skills culminated in a nice finish to Tom Gordon. But the Cats weren't going down without a fight.
Now here's the experience of Hunts from 30. This time he makes no mistake.
Elusive forward Amos Frank found some space late in the term to give the Hawks an 8-point lead at the final change. Geelong reclaimed the lead with the first 3 goals of the last quarter, culminating in a beautiful kick from Jackson Sheringham. The margin was cut back to under a goal when Luke Loudon marked in goal with plenty of time to play, but the reigning premiers replied with some sharp ball movement, which resulted in the sealer from Jackson Thurlow. Despite trailing by 8 at three-quarter time, the Cats dominated the inside 50s and possession in the final term to steal a hard-fought 5-point win. Josh Hunt was best of field in a great team performance, which saw the Cats spread the goals amongst 11 players. Around the grounds, North Ballarat celebrated their first win for 2013 with an 85-point victory over the struggling Bendigo Gold. Casey continued its winning way, smashing Essendon by 14 goals. With an upset over Collingwood, Frankston pulled off 2 straight wins for the first time since 2008. Williamstown boosted its premiership credentials with a huge win over Werribee. 2 late goals to Port Melbourne saw them hold on to a thrilling draw against Sandringham, and the Northern Blues remain undefeated after defeating Coburg by 26 points. Geelong and Casey join the Blues at the top of the VFL ladder, while Frankston are in the 8 for the first time in years. Sandringham came so close last week, but endure with Bendigo at the bottom of the table without a win. Only 2 sides remained undefeated after 5 rounds of football. Claremont had yet to be tested after 4 easy wins, while West Perth were challenged in the early rounds and had lifted when it mattered. It didn't take long for Claremont's Ian Richardson to stamp his authority on the match.
Caught in a tackle, but he gets a hand pass off to Davies. Hand pass to Richardson. Richardson about 47 or 48 metres. Oh, and he doesn't miss those on the run.
West Perth replied almost immediately with a great goal from Nick Rodder. But the Falcons couldn't keep Richardson away from the footy, and he found the goals again for his second. Nick Chidsey stayed on ground when all others flew and capitalised with a classy snap to start the second term. A lapse in concentration from the Falcons allowed John Williams an easy handball receive, the resulting goal stretching the margin to 25 points at the main break. The scoring slowed down from both sides in the third term, but finished with a bang.
Dangerously, comes the end of the Falcons. Kerr got it to Hutchings, now towards man's zone, he kicks towards goal, he's got it through!
West Perth dominated play for the first few minutes of the final quarter and capitalised when a Mark Crisp goal brought them within a kick. But the reigning premiers proved too strong in the end. A run of 3 straight goals sealed the win. West Perth had every chance and will take plenty of positives out of the match, but the Tigers were deserving 19-point winners. Vice-captain Jake Murphy was best for Claremont and Ian Richardson crucial with 3 goals. Across town, East Perth held off a gallant East Fremantle by 10 points. Subiaco bounced back after consecutive losses with a 41-point win over South Fremantle. And Peel Thunder celebrated their first win of the season, upsetting Swan Districts by a couple of goals. Claremont remains the only undefeated side after 6 rounds, with West Perth, East Fremantle and Perth making up the top 4. South Fremantle is yet to register a win and remains on the bottom.
So just a reminder again about local footy around the nation, and you can see the Shute Shield, which again is the Sydney rugby competition on Tuesdays 3:30 in the morning, then Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays the VFL, the SANFL and the WAFL. And if you're watching now at those times, then probably need to get some more sleep. Okay, Slatey, interesting match. Dominated, I guess, by scrappy skills in some ways.
It has a lot of free kicks around the stoppage, but there is a lot of numbers there. They're struggling. They're holding on to the ball a bit longer because they can't give it out to anyone free because everyone seems to be manned up. Just stacking numbers back in defence. You'll see Port had a lot of possessions to their defenders that quarter. That's because they're just flooding back there, but the Eagles are building that wall, so didn't really get a lot of use out of the wind.
And Chris Kendall on the boundaries, does it look any better down there?
Look, to be perfectly honest, no. It's one of those games, I suppose, where possession is going to be a key when you've got so much wind down there. Port's backline have been very astute at holding possession, particularly as we saw there in that second quarter. We look out there with the likes of Matthew Scanlon, Hoskin, Aseri Rakiwaza, if you don't mind, had 16 disposals in that term. Now, 16 disposals in a term for a defender is just phenomenal numbers, but that's because Port were playing very patient football back there. We see the likes there, Hoskin bursting his way through, Aseri Rakiwaza going through, look out there at Mackenzie going his way through the midfield. They were just playing very patient football, the Magpies, just looking at holding the possession as much as they could, because it's the old adage in football, if you've got the football, the opposition don't have it, and therefore you can set the terms of how you want to play the game. And Port have been very, very good at that so far. With the breeze swinging around the way it is, it's essential that they do try and hold the ball as much as they possibly can. It doesn't make for a very absorbing spectacle. Let's not be mistaken about that side of things, but at the end of the day, Magpies are holding in very well against a pretty highly credentialed Eagles team, and we saw the Eagles were pumped to the eyeballs last week against Nord. You wonder if there's a slight emotional letdown when they're coming up against an opponent that they're probably not going to meet in finals action. The young Magpies backline has really held sway today, and they've been very impressive.
Thanks for that, Chris. Pumped to the eyeballs in the current climate. Don't know if that was a good terminology, but anyway, let's have a look at how it unfolded in the first half. We've seen enough of players kicking back and forward to each other in what Chris told us at half-time, but certainly there were some goals scored. That was one of the best of them. Johansson out of mid-air.
It was. And he looks he's very lightly framed, very small. I think he weighs 58 kilos. But he moves pretty well, and that was a very clever goal. He looks like pretty relaxed out there as well. He's taken players on. He took a good tackle from Jared.
Well, you see, this is the opening quarter. Now, interesting, we'll get to the full stats later, but this from Corey Ogilvie. The Eagles had 111 possessions in that first quarter. Port Adelaide in the second quarter, this is into the breeze. Port Adelaide in the second quarter, 129 possessions and 56 marks in that second quarter as they kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked around at the back.
They did, and I mean, it started at around the 10-minute mark too, so I think the crowd, if they came to watch a free-flowing game with a lot of goals scored, they quickly realised that wasn't going to happen, and the Eagles just didn't respond to it quick enough. They had the breeze they needed to drop their extra numbers back and pick these players up, and at least make it a contest and put Port under pressure. They didn't do that, so as a result, they didn't score a lot of goals with the breeze.
We'll see Andrew Ainge getting a gift there. That was the 12-minute mark of the second term. In the opening term, Port Adelaide, with the breeze, kicked 2 goals for and 2 out of bounds on the full. The Eagles, though, didn't make much better fare of the advantage of the breeze in the second term. As you see there, 2 goals, 2. One of those behinds was rushed. to 2 goals straight from Port Adelaide. So a close game, just 5 points in it at half-time. And as we see, goal kickers are, well, fairly modest, shall we say. There's nobody really racking them up. Graham Johncock with a couple, though, for Port Adelaide. And the statistics, the full statistics across the game at half-time look like this.
As we look at it, we can see a high percentage of handballs, and that just comes from trying to run it into the breeze, and that mainly was from the first quarter with the Eagles. Kicks there, you can see, and that was built last quarter from Port with 120 at the moment, a lot more than the Eagles, but they certainly pumped those numbers up. Inside 50s, interesting stat that quarter, 25 to the Eagles, only 18 to Port, but didn't convert a lot just because of all those Port numbers back there.
Okay, so that's the statistics, and just a reminder of the full round of SANFL in round 5. It's Norwood over West Adelaide on the Anzac Day game by 26 points. Last night at Noarlunga, it was North Adelaide by 38 points over South Adelaide. We'll have a good look at that game at three-quarter time, but what isn't very pretty to look forward to is South's home record. It's pretty dismal. We'll get to that. It was 2-10 last season. They haven't won at home this 2-8, I should say, last season. They haven't won at home this season either. And of course, the Eagles by 5 points at the moment here. And Glenelg Sturt later tonight down at the Bay. You think it's breezy here, Sladey. There might be a bit of breeze down at the Bay tonight.
It would, and potentially could see a bit of rain. So these guys, although the conditions aren't great, might be actually lucky compared to what could be coming.
We've got a few minutes just as the Eagles starting to break. There's a view of the trees around the place. Chris Kendall, who's listening in down at the boundary. Has the breeze dropped at all?
Yeah, it has dropped to a degree down here, actually, Crossy. It's going across the ground a little bit, if anything else, but it's certainly not that swirling gale that we saw there in that first couple of quarters. If that does get back to the same level that it is now, this is going to make for a really interesting contest, and hopefully you see a bit more open, free-flowing football than what we saw at times in that first half.
And rain?
No rain so far, but my mates at the Weather Bureau assure me there's none coming, and this time I'm going to put the faith in them.
Okay. All right, let's see what unfolds. It's the Eagles, the home team, by 5 points at half-time. Get us underway in the second half. Here's Kim Morgan.
Well, Port Adelaide held up in that second quarter, kicking into that gale, and we've just heard from Chris Kendall, it has abated a little bit, the wind. Can they now in this third quarter try and make some inroads? They're 1-2, the Magpies, trying to square their ledger, and the Eagles are trying to get ahead on the count to go to 3-1. Parry didn't take clean possession, probably wise. Powell in there fighting for the ball for the Eagles, and we'll have the ball up straight away. He's the clearance king, Luke Powell, averaging 8 a game, more than anyone else in the league. And the Eagles are the best clearance side in terms of differential in the competition. Can they assert some authority here? They get a high one, and Roundtree, who's the second leading clearance player, wins it. Mitchell's broken. Now, can he use his speed, Mitchell? He ran his full measure, kicks into the breeze low. Hall did really well, tries to get some space, hooking on the left boot, right to the square. Allman was there. Also, Danny Butcher had to be clever. Scanlon was stripped of it. Allman diving forward, and he has been pinged. Much to his dismay, but it'll be a free kick to the Magpies. And Baird is marked in the back pocket.
Corey Beard just taking his time. Probably needs to be told that they're kicking with the breeze this quarter, the Magpies. As he goes down the line, Mitchell went back, just knocked it out of bounds and took one afterwards from Meikle-John, which the Eagles didn't appreciate, but the umpire said was all okay.
Pretty important, Mitchell, for the Eagles, and they just let him sit off the back of the stoppage before they let him spread. They're not paying a lot of close attention to him, which surprises me at the moment.
He's quick. That's the thing you notice about him immediately. Roundtree back to Mitchell. Puts it into the forward pocket, probably to the advantage of Scanlon. Now Hall off the pack, just toes it towards the boundary line. Advantage by that is Goldsworthy, the left footer, tried to square it up. Rakawasa dropped it. Beard was in the back, surely. Umpire thought so. And off the ball, Rakawasa's got a hand injury by the looks. Andrew Ainger is the Eagle who'll go back and have a shot at goal.
He's had a couple of lucky ones, well, not so much that was lucky, just a bit of sloppy play, but he dived in and went after the ball, so probably earned himself that one. He got the gift earlier from Thurgood in the previous quarter, so getting frees and getting turnovers very close to goal. So not challenging him around the goals, and there's another one that wasn't too hard for him.
Ainger with the goal, and just just noted Rakawasa in that replay looked like he put his arm out, maybe got one in the elbow, but he is staying out there. He maybe just a bit of a stinger, but importantly for the Eagles, they extend that margin to 11 points.
Concern now for the Eagles, though, boys, is that Slady, but Mal Carpenter's down here on the bench with his ankle iced up. He looks like he's done for the day.
Look, every goal so important for the Magpies at the moment now, so they're not going to be able to play keep-off footy in the last quarter if they're down. They're going to have to just go for it, so they'll be looking to score quite heavily now, so not a great start.
So Andrew Ainger's 10th for the season, 2nd for the afternoon, and the Eagles get a little bit of breathing space, 39-28. Parry hitting that one. Now, Day was at a legal disposal, ended up with Mitchell to Jared, 2 speedsters. Jared's got forward of the Magpies defenders here. He's had 2 bounces, render 60, tries to use it to Redden, couldn't quite mark the footy. Rakawasa, who looks to have dusted himself off, spun, held up in a tackle, and will have a ball up. And he had a lot of it in that second term. We might get some stats from Corey Ogilvie, if we can, in a moment, on him in that second quarter as Hoskin. Ball stripped from him in a tackle. Mitchell was in there fighting for it.
Actually jumped to tackle him there, just obviously the size difference between Mitchell and Micklejohn.
Redden got to the front, knocked it out. Still in dispute. Umpire won't pull one out of this, you wouldn't think. We'll get another ball up, Corey.
Yes, Neil, for the Magpies, Rakawasa did have 17 for the half, 16 in the second quarter, and you asked about Thurgood before. He had 12 for the half, 11 in the second quarter with 8 marks, and for the Eagles, Jared with 16 and Hall with 15.
Thanks for that, Corey. Yeah. Thurgood and Rakawasa are obviously benefiting from being in defence in that last quarter. Now, was that off the boot? It was. Now, Johansson thinks it's his kick. And the umpires are going to chat about it just to be sure whose boot it came off. I got the impression it may have been Johansson. And that's the way it's been ruled. That's what Tony Day thinks. And so the free kick will go to Roundtree, who gave it to a left footer in Sumner. And then Roundtree short with his left foot is non-preferred, and it's out of bounds. And again, Slady, not really thinking and sloppy in what they did then, the Eagles.
It was, yeah, just a bit fumbly, haven't they? Also, just with that Mitchell one, it looks like Mackenzie's now gone to him. He's got an arm across. He's getting stuck into him physically, so they have established that he's doing a bit of damage.
Oh, Rakawasa in the tackle, turnover, and Ainger's made him pay. So Ainger kicks his 3rd of the game, his 2nd for the second half, and now the Eagles have put a handy little break. They're out by 17 points.
As we can see just in there, Ainger, another turnover. Good pressure, though, in there. Forcing the rushed handball, and Ainger getting another one very close to goals again. So not having to do too much for his goals, but certainly making Port pay when he gets his opportunity.
And the Eagles perhaps didn't do enough of that in the second quarter, pressing up and pressuring the Magpie defenders. We see them forcing Rakawasa into error there with a really good tackle. And perhaps some of that good work that the Magpies did in the second quarter to hold up being undone here so far. 17-point break. It's a game-high lead. Magpies take this away through Young. Spoil on Rose. Ball over the back. Can Summerton get to this footy? There was Cully. Summerton does get to it. Handball for Butcher. He's got John Cockford. He wants him in the square. He'll use him. And the Maggies get a quick reply.
And a much-needed one. Just Summerton there. Was good enough just to control the ball and get a pretty effective handball out there. He's just, as you can see, under pressure, worked hard forward, gathered inside and just working hard forward. Butcher, in time, can get that ball out to John Cock, and there's a pretty easy goal.
Still an 11-point game. Noticed after the last ruck contest, Craig Parry was very, very slow to get back to his feet. Trainer came and sought him out. As you see there, he's just trying to shake off whatever problem he had. So Port Adelaide get one back. Still an 11-point game. Parry early. Meiklejohn probably had the best of it. Centre break still to be determined. Mackenzie, oh, he's lost it. Well done by Allman. Forward-looking hand pass, couldn't find Mitchell, who'd spread. Now Powell, inside 50 with a kick. Scanlon with the easy mark. Just read it best. He keeps it short for Slattery. Slattery now waits. Nothing much in terms of leading coming at him down the line, and in fact the Eagles have pressed pretty well here. So Slattery just goes with a tumble punt down the line, nobody able to take it. Butcher almost towed it forward. Cully's direct opponent, now Thurgood. And then looking up, Rose drops it long for Butcher, the tallest man in the pack, but the ball slipped over the back. Summerton did pretty well on Sumner, and then Johncock advantage by the kick. Can he turn around Gafrida, who's done a pretty good job despite the fact Johncock has got 3 goals thus far in this game, and the boundary wins out in the end. 8 minutes in, 11 points the margin in favour of the home team, the Eagles.
Probably the smart option there by Summerton. He's working hard down forward and just could have probably had a shot. Maybe it would have been the right option, but he squared it up, and obviously they rate
Jared
Johncock in a one-on-one.
And that had to be holding the ball. That was a superb tackle.
Summerton again.
Summerton it was. Just pulled the one hand back, and Jared had no way of getting rid of this ball.
Great work. Just a work rate by Summerton down there. He's been involved in the last 3 passages of play up forward. He's following up. He's, I guess, putting pressure on. It's going to be like a relatively easy kick for distance. Just the accuracy with that ball movement through the breeze.
Hasn't kicked a goal today, Summerton. Gets it to the top of the square. Won't have the distance, and that was an easy kill for the defenders. They knock it through for a point, but a bright couple of minutes for the Magpies have reduced the margin to 10 points.
So an Eagle there caught with a chicken wing tackle from Luke Jarrett. Now, the kick in wasn't great. Thurgood almost took it. The ball punched away from him into the forward pocket, and I think, yes, Sumner was very happy for that ball to roll across the line, just some 10 metres or so around in the right forward pocket for Port Adelaide. Another chance for them to exert some pressure. Parry had the better of it. Somehow it came back to Harder, who snaps a goal. They're back within 5 points, the Magpies.
And looking very dangerous. They can get the ball in there, and they certainly have the players to be very effective down there. Harder just sneaking around the back of the pack there, and a very good kick. Gets a lot of power off that left with that hook leg. But Port's starting to look dangerous down there. They just need to get the ball down there more often. Eagles holding players back that time, so maybe they've got the opportunity to get a little bit of space up forward.
I know Johncock's kicked the 3 up there, Slatty, but I wonder if Port have got one too many tools in attack at the moment.
Well, that's possible. It hasn't been overly clean, has it? The ball is hitting the deck, so speed might be the option.
So Harder gets his first of the afternoon. Led their goal kicking last year with 29 goals, and that was a big one. Margin under a goal. They go forward again, the Magpies. Gray did well. Kirkwood, long ball. Can Butcher get back to it? Just goes over his head and just misses. So Port Adelaide winning some stoppages, and they've had the last 4 scoring shots here. The margin's 3 points.
Just looks like they're starting to make their move. They're going to have to go in at three-quarter time. Look, I would say a couple goals up to be confident to hold this one out.
So Cully kicks long, outer side. Jared at the front of the pack, pulls it in. Now he's taken straight away. Mitchell was in there, hooked it over his head, down to half forward, or rather down to centre wing on this big ground. And Joyce sees it over the line in the battle with Hayes. Scott Lewis, well travelled, but certainly at home now here at the Woodville Oval, having been at Westies and then Glenelg. Along the way, winning a reserves McGarry medal. Here's Mitchell. Oh, he smuggled it out. Roundtree, and then they get it out the back to Goldsworthy, and then Goldsworthy's kick was pretty good to Allman, who gave it off to Hall. Hall under a bit of pressure. Tumble punt inside half forward. Parry almost took it. Rakawasa came late. Now he's got possession. He just got the kick away. Scrambled it towards centre wing. Gray was there. He's got players inside, but he goes outside to Slattery. Non-preferred his left foot. Drops it up for Butcher. He was taken to ground by Cully. Umpire will reward Butcher. Umpire calls play on advantage now. Slattery towards the goal face. At the back, Harder. Used his strength, couldn't get back on the ball, out of bounds.
And how costly was the parry drop? Would have been a shot on goal from a possible, possibly able to convert from the distance. It's turned around and now it's back in Port's forward line.
Surging just at the minute, the Magpies. Whistle here. Now, it's an Eagles free kick. Heard the umpire instructing Butcher prior to the throw-in, and he's ruled that he interfered with his power teammate in Redden. Roundtree got it to Kane. Now, will the Eagles look to eat up some clock the way Port Adelaide did in the second quarter rather? Cully's got this one. Breeze doesn't appear to be as strong, so it can be scored into. This kick was risky. Thurgood gathers the ball now to McKenzie. Can Gray kick this one? That's straight. Delightful stuff from Sam Gray, and the Magpies are in front. They've kicked 3 without reply.
Thurgood probably happy to be on the other end of the turnover there. Did very well. They were outnumbered. It was a 3-on-2 in there, and Thurgood's just tried to zone off between the two and then read it perfectly, setting up that goal for Gray, which is a pretty good kick. Just hung it left and let the breeze just bring it back in. Port looking pretty good at this stage.
Lewis is back on the ground, but he's just struggling a little bit with an ankle at the moment. We'll keep an eye on him for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Sam Gray with his 7th of the season puts Port Adelaide in front. So now it becomes a crucial centre break. Again, that breeze has died somewhat, but it's still favouring to the right of screen, the southern end of the ground. And umpire's going to recall that one. I think the breeze got a bit of it, but also the bounce wasn't perfect. So we'll throw this up. All the same rules apply, of course, to the centre as if it were the first centre bounce. Sharrett, possession, just had to pull in the kick. Well done by Kirkwood. Down to half forward. Summerton had the ball knocked away. Harder, strong, as usual. Back to Thurgood. Spent it before he got it. Now Day. Thurgood with the tackle. Umpire with the whistle.
Just couldn't pick it up there. Could he had about 4 shots at it, but he was able to hold it up in the end.
Redden over the top. Kirkwood doing the hard yards inside for Port Adelaide. That is his style. Boy from Paraka through Endeavour College to play at Alberton.
All up to setting up for a shootout here. We got Eagles stacked on the backside of their play and then Port on the others. Now they mix in.
Everyone flying for that ruck contest. Jared stays down. Has his second big run of the quarter. Goes looking for Parry. Gets over the back. Rakawaza did beautifully to trap the ball, but then he's taken on some tacklers. Eventually got rid of it. It could come straight back in. Joyce, time to think. Sets it up. Ainger, the target, had 2 to beat. They bring it down. Still a chance, Eagles. Umpire saying that the head was ducked there by Jared Allman. And we'll have a stoppage. Can the Eagles reply? Hayes immediately pinned to him, so that won't come out. Port Adelaide just injecting some real life into the game in the last 5 minutes. But they're under some pressure here. Michael John. Roundtree, where he always is, gives it to Powell. That's in really tight though. And the Magpies aren't going to let them escape. We'll have another ball up. Still in a scoring position for the Eagles if they can win this stoppage.
Over the top, Dawson came third man up, but it's a 15, 16-man scramble down there anyway, so the ball didn't come out. Actually, it's not that many. Let's be realistic. There's a good 12 though down there, I reckon, and that's a high tackle. So Dawson, the man pinched. Gray, the man with a free kick. He can go short and wide. That's what he decides to do. So Kirkwood immediately plays on. Now they're away. Port Adelaide. Beard over the top to Sharrett, can run. Decides to give it to a better carrier in Gray, who cuts back inside Mitchell. And then Gray just thumps it long. John Butcher's coming at the back. He never got there. Grafrida at the front brought it to ground for the Eagles. And as a result, they get away with it. Day goes wide, too wide. Hard to believe he can kick out on the full on a ground so big. But he did, well and truly.
From that position as well, he was almost in the centre of the ground. So maybe the breeze pulling that one a bit to the right.
Hoskin received this kick. Kicks to the hot spot, hard of the target. Got over his head. Butcher came out. Clever handball. Harder hooking. And that was a hard position to kick from. And he's just snuck it in for a behind. Margin out to 4 points.
Seems to read that very well, Harder. He just swings around that back of the play. Any mark not taken or ball that spills out by hand, he's usually right in the right spot. What a great kick, that one.
No, Eagles fortunate. Goldsworthy did get a hand to the ball, so as a result, we'll have a throw in 40 around from the Port Adelaide goalface. They've really made a surge in this quarter. This is more like we thought this game would go, with the breeze, the side dominating. And in this case, it's Port Adelaide. Roundtree took it towards the line. John Cock with the pressure. It's only 3 goals to 2 in the quarter, but certainly Port Adelaide, the first 2 goals of the quarter by the Eagles, but since then Port Adelaide been in charge. Here's Sumner at the back, just released the ball. Well done by Parry, the big ruckman. Sumner thought about the hand pass, now he does, and gets the 1-2 from Lewis, and he's still on the boundary line. He carried it pretty well, but then turned it over to Hoskin, and now the tackle can't be made on Scanlon. He wriggled free. They've got a chance here, Port Adelaide. Rose, meanwhile, just behind Rose, you see there, bottom of screen, Sharrod just struggling. Rose looking for Thurgood. Thurgood pulled his man down, and Johansson's in there, but did he pull the ball in? Umpire says, no, I'll have it. Sean Carpenter, he's done for the day. And Jared Allman, the other player on the bench there for the Eagles.
Ball now lobbing just between players.
Eagles going to find it very hard to get it out of here at the moment. Port setting up that wall across the back. That's why Sumner had to just keep running it before and then try to dribble kick it along to gain distance.
What type of lead do you think Ken McGregor would want here at 3/4 time, Slady?
I think he'd be looking at around a 3-goal, just the way it's going to be played. That gives him the potential. Not too many goals being scored with it, but I think he'd be looking for a good 3 just to give him a good chance.
Runner nearly getting in the way there. Roundtree having his head almost ripped off. He gets a free kick. Joyce, 1-on-1. It's Redden and Rakawaza at Redden. Too tall. Rakawaza had great position, but he just reached over the top. So this will take a lot of sting out of Port Adelaide if he could kick this. Jared Redden, not a noted goal kicker, comes in now, starts it
back
left. He started almost in the right spot and let the breeze do some work. It just didn't do enough.
It didn't. Usually one of the rules is trying not to give the goals away, so he's probably hung that, lined that one up well and truly left, anticipating the breeze. He probably put that one just inside the left post, and then if it moves, you've probably still got enough to play with.
3-point game, Summerton off half back, just drives it forward. Sitting back there, Sumner. Oh, the bounce favoured Butcher like you would not believe. And then he gave it off to John Cock, who just can't get a handle on it. He goes to ground. Gefrida in his back. Umpire call play on. And now the reward for Harder being in front is a free kick. And he'll take a shot at goal, 40 metres out. And that's just about the mirror image of where Jared Redden had a shot at the other end.
Just a pretty unfortunate bounce for the Eagles there, just falling into Johnny Butcher's hands there. John Cock couldn't quite pick it up, but you could just see that free kick coming. As soon as they dive from the ball, players just burrow in, and always, nearly every time, a free kick's plucked out of it. But here comes Harder, with a very good chance to kick another goal.
Harder punishes the ball. Lovely finish, his second for the term, his second for the match. And Port Adelaide sneak away by 9 points.
It's been good up there, Harder as well. Around the packs, like I said, he can snap. He can also then, as we can see, pretty confident kicking a set shot. He's had 3 shots this quarter, so he's kicked 2-goal-1. So he is looking very dangerous up there.
So at one end, Jared Redden just misses, and the other, Harder drills it. Effectively an 11-point turnaround. Gives Port Adelaide a 9-point lead. We're 21 minutes in. They'd love another one, you feel, the Magpies. That would give them a 15-point lead, which is around about that sort of 3-goal area that they'd like to lead by, to kick into the breeze in the last term. Parry hit that one down. Dawson it was who came off his line. Gray was in there fighting for the ball. Lewis, no one's got any space in there at the moment. Parry hitting this one. Powell. Mackenzie's been a bit quiet. Did he get head-high contact there? Umpire said no. Slattery. Now that is rough. Didn't have much chance there. But Mitchell will take the free kick gladly. Had Jared drifting by. Now Lewis, they've drawn the man and set up the spare well here, the Eagles. Lewis, who'll go into the pocket. Goldsworthy couldn't quite hang on to the mark. May come back to him. Gets onto his left boot now. High ball. Redden was there. Also Ainger. Magpies defenders get it to ground. Still danger. Kane. And Port Adelaide are able to hold up. And this sets up a pretty important stoppage here late in the third.
Eagles maybe a little bit unlucky. They had the players at the fall of the ball then. I reckon they had 3 sweeping on that one. Couldn't quite take a clean one.
Redden looks for Ainger. High tackle on Madden. Free kick, Port Adelaide. So they get a little bit of relief here. Not the short option. Kirkwood. And then he goes over the top for Slattery. Lots of experience now has Luke Slattery. Down the line he goes long. Sumner at the front. Oh, he got a good leap, but took the ball out of bounds. John Cock was also trying to leap on the back of Sumner, who was already riding the pack. The old boys of Woodville West Torrens there, enjoying the atmosphere this afternoon. On this Anzac weekend, Lewis was held up. Umpire will pay the free kick. So he drops it wide straight away. Mitchell again is the one to spread. Inside for Hall, overlapping well. Breeze is dropped. That's good penetration with the kick. Redden in the goal square, couldn't take it. At the front, Dawson. He can't. Well, yes, he can eventually. And Joyce kicks the goal. I thought he'd overrun it just for a moment, had Dawson, but he was good enough to get it up. And Joyce kicked the goal.
He did, and look, that just puts the pressure right back on Port Adelaide now. They probably wanted a bit of a buffer and then control the ball, but now they're going to have to play it out in the last quarter, which is good as far as spectating or viewing the game. They're going to have to actually go for the win, so it could be an exciting last quarter coming up soon. But they're just a bit fumbly still, but didn't panic, got the ball out, and there we see it. Now we've got a 3-point ball game.
So Nick Joyce gets his second of the afternoon, courtesy of some good work down there from Glenn Dawson. And both goals for Joyce to that end of the ground. Both very valuable into the wind. Margin 3 points. It's tenuous now, this break for Port Adelaide. And we are almost at the 25-minute mark of the third term. Allman tries to come away, gets boot to ball. Ainger got to the front spot, and that's a strong mark with some really genuine opposition from Beard. Gets onto his right boot, kicks into the man of the mark, who infringed. Big moment in the game, this. Ainger now will come to about 20 metres straight in front.
Crucial mistake there, especially this stage. Late in the quarter, they would have been trying to hold on to as close to a small lead that they've got. Ainger being able to take these shots from close range, and he doesn't miss. But Ken McGregor's going to be very upset just there, giving back the ascendancy so late in the quarter.
Well, remarkably, he's missed there, Ainger, and now there's some stuff going on off the ball, just off camera, and he was felled. I think the decision was fair there. The 50 in the first place as Port Adelaide thumped this ball in quickly, and Parry's now got a chance to pump the Eagles forward again.
Gives it to Thompson. He's a long kick as well. Thompson just chips it to half forward. Well done by Powell. Well done by Mitchell, who kept Slattery away from Powell's path. Now he's called to play on. Sets it high. Beard at the back. Couldn't take it. Ball to ground. Crucial to be won. And Hoskin slung around in the tackle off the Gray. And Kirkwood and Beard. And then Beard goes outside the defensive 50. And well done by Asiri Wakawasa. He created some space. And now John Cock, who, just by the way, has gone into the midfield. He's on centre wing at the moment. Eagles have got players back covering. He goes into Meiklejohn. Overlapping was Young down to half forward. Good pick up that time from Thurgood. Wide he goes for Kirkwood, trying to push off Day. Did so. Kirkwood looks inside 50. Goes for Rose. At the back, Roundtree got a hand on it. Umpire said it was in the back though.
Look, it was clearly there. He took a while to make the call, but he rode him into the ground. Look, fair enough, you get up and take the mark, but he's used his hands to ride him in there and didn't even get near the ball, so definitely a free kick. I don't think the Eagles could complain too much about that.
So important shot at goal now for Matthew Rose and Port Adelaide. Crossed over 27 minutes in this third term. They lead it by just 2 points.
Very important kick here for Rose. They're going to need whatever lead they can take into this, and we're running fast out of time for three-quarter time, but a super leg and a much-needed goal there. Rose, a great kick.
So a good finish from Rose, and just a little bit of breathing space as we head towards three-quarter time for Port Adelaide.
So we see that again. Probably not what you call a realistic attempt to mark by Roundtree. And again, a couple of big moments there. Ainger, the goal he'd kicked a lot more often than he'd not, but he missed. And Port now have got some sort of a break to take into the third quarter, although there is still a little, into the final quarter I should say. There is still a little bit of time to play here. We're 28 minutes down. Parry double hands this ball. Goldsworthy's moved into the middle. Roundtree sharing it with Jared, who's had a lot of it in this third quarter. The kick went towards the wing. Hall was clever, but wearing him was Hayes. They fight a scoreless draw. The umpire whistles it up. We'll have a throw up, even though the ball did eventually go over the boundary. Can't be long to play here in the third term. What a battle these two have had. Parry, Goldsworthy, Roundtree. Can the Eagles push forward for a late one? Rose, the last goal kicker, came the other way. Tough stuff in there. There's Hoskin fighting for it for the Magpies, and we will have a ball up. We've played almost 29 minutes of the third term.
Meiklejohn taps it down. Goldsworthy on the left foot. Breeze advantages him, brings it back into play. Beard the other way for Port Adelaide. Down the line he goes. John Cock, the only player who could get it to Port Adelaide, or could get to it from Port Adelaide, but Jared with the mark. So he'll send his side back into attack late in the quarter. Now beyond 29 minutes. Jared the half forward, beautifully weighted kick. Finds Hall, plays on immediately. Redden's in the goal square. Hall thinks he can go all the way. Redden gets up but can't get a hand to the ball, minor score.
Just Port zoning off a little bit there, but Luke Jarrett, just a great kicking skills. They're setting that up, and look, still keeping the heat on Port at the moment. But I think they'll just be looking to maybe get a quick one just before quarter time because the pressure is going to be on.
Big contest, Gray and Orman. Mitchell is at the ground level, beautiful handball. Powell has a shot on goal. Redden marking right on the goal line. He's been dangerous, wants to play on. The umpire will have none of it, and probably lucky for the Eagles.
Yeah, just an interesting move there. Fair enough if he's sitting in the square by himself, we can just pop that over the top, but he did. He pretty much had someone all over him then, so just take your time. They don't want to give away, concede another goal, so going back and having a shot and potentially kicking a goal here is going to hurt Port Adelaide quite a bit.
You want to kick this before the siren, Redden, so he can improve that angle. He'll come in, try and think his way through it. Beautifully done.
Made it look easy in the end, so why would you play that one on? But Eagles will take a bit of momentum, I reckon, into three-quarter time now. They'll be confident. Breeze has died down quite a bit, but it's still going to be an advantage kicking to the southern end. So Port are definitely going to have to run and work hard. They're not going to be able to play that defensive keep-off footy. It's going to be probably one-on-one and take it and drive forward. Otherwise, I just can't see him getting on top.
Was a good finish then in the end from Redden. 11 games with the power, looking for more this season, and that'll impress the power looking on. The fact that he's able to get forward, take a few marks and kick a goal. So just 1 point in it, close to three-quarter time. Long quarter, 31 minutes now. Is there time for one more for either side? Gray, head pass behind Slattery, was good enough to get it to Sharrett. Oh, that was a throw, I think. Meiklejohn down the half forward, siren before Jared can take the mark. So three-quarter time at the Woodville Oval. What a contest. It's Port Adelaide 9-7-61, the Eagles 9-6-60.
Yeah, just look, the game a lot more enjoyable to watch at the moment. You can see it looks like it's got that feeling where it's just about to break for one side or the other. Eagles probably taking the ascendancy there. Port would have been looking to go up by a couple of goals into that break. There's still a chance they wouldn't have conceded at all now, though. But Eagles certainly go in with the advantage.
So three-quarter time at the Woodville Oval. And it's the visitors, although they've only come 3 Ks down the road.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide by 1 point. So Port Adelaide away from home with the narrowest of leads to take into the final quarter. Speaking of away from home, Slady, your North Adelaide side last night was good away from home against South Adelaide, but we know the Panthers have an appalling record down there at Noarlunga across the last two seasons, well 2012 and now early in this season, 2 wins, 13 losses at home.
Not a great record. Look, it was one of the things they used to pride themselves on, going down there. I don't know if other teams went down there with the best attitude. At the moment, it's the exact reverse of that at the moment. They can't seem to play well at home. We didn't address that fact at all anyway. We figured that if we played well, we'd be good enough to win. We've got a pretty good balance at the moment. We anticipated or focused on a good start. We got that. Then that didn't pan out so well in the second quarter, and the game was on till, early into the last quarter where North persisted and ran away with the game.
Just on that record at South Adelaide, under Ronnie Fuller, in fact, and thanks to Corey Ogilvie, who's had a good look at this, they've only won 21.2% of their games at home. 7 wins, 24 losses, 2 draws, the Panthers. They've been much better away from home. They've got a winning record there of 12 wins and 21 losses. So it is an incredible anomaly, I think, because usually at home you should perform better than that.
Well, that's right. Usually you've got your crowd backing you as well. Sides emphasise the fact that you don't lose home games. It's a stat they probably hide. I doubt they bring it up at all, but it'll be something they're looking to really rectify at the moment. I mean, they want their supporters there to build the atmosphere, and I mean, with that sort of statistic, the supporters stay away? Let's hope they can fix that up later in the season.
Well, looking ahead for your team, you've got Norwood next week. How are you placed going into that match, given that this was a pretty good performance away from home?
It was. Look, there were still disappointing signs. Just a little bit stagnant up forward. We probably we burnt the ball a bit. We were a bit fumbly. We gave away some stupid free kicks. We feel that we have got enough balance and enough good players that we can be competitive any time. Norwood, certainly, they're the side to beat at the moment. We just saw how convincingly they ended up beating West. So they probably go in the favourites, but we're fine with that. We know we can be competitive, and we'll just be looking to obviously play our best and take the game on and see what really find out where we're at in this competition.
The other thing for the South fans out there, for the Panthers, what was the most troubling thing about South Adelaide for you in terms of what did you have trouble matching?
Oh, look, I thought their back lines were pretty strong. We play 3 talls, which we think would be a bit of an advantage. We didn't get a lot of the on-ballers were kicking the goal, so their defensive players worked pretty well to, congest and just stop us from using our big men to score goals.
So North Adelaide 18-9-1-17, South Adelaide 12-7-79, 38 points the margin in that game down at Noarlunga last night. Back to this match, and certainly it's been a contest at times, as we said. The football hasn't been all that impressive, but it has been close, and it is close at three-quarter time. 3 points to the Eagles at quarter time, 5 points at half-time. Port Adelaide still without a first half winning quarter this season, and at three-quarter time it's 1 point the margin in favour of the Eagles. So things are very, very close, and they'll certainly be looking, the Eagles, to likes of Andrew Ainger to provide them with a target in this final term.
They will. Look, they're going to be kicking with a breeze, so it's a good chance for Ainger to be actually taking them deep. They're going to go away from that, I reckon, trying to flood the back line. So if they can get it in there and just push forward, they should be right. Okay, let's go down boundary level with Chris Kendall. And Chris, you've been listening in at the Maggies.
In Ken McGregor's words, what a challenge to have in football. You're ahead by a point or so against an opposition where you were written off by everybody. This is your chance, as he says, to really show that you've grown as a football team. He wants them to really run and use their speed and carry as much as they can this quarter. They're going to have to do it without Danny Butcher, though. Danny Butcher has done a shoulder dislocation or a break. We're still not sure as yet, but he's done for the day. But then again, we know that Carpenter's also done for the Eagles. So both teams down to 2 on the bench. But Ken McGregor just wants them to really use their pace and really back themselves in. This should be an absolute ripping last term.
Thanks for that, Chris. As we look through those statistics, I think it might have said that the Eagles were up by a point. Of course, Port Adelaide leading by a point at three-quarter time.
Yeah, just looking at it. Look, inside 50s, the interesting stat there, Polly, with Port kicking with a breeze that quarter, that they only had 28, and Eagles have got 41. So, look, good signs for the Eagles.
and you'd probably back the Eagles from here on their home ground. I wonder what Michael Godden, the coach, thinks. He's with Chris Kendall.
Worked really hard to get back into it there, Mick, and just drop the concentration a little bit there in red time.
Yeah, we haven't been real good today, I don't reckon, but they're just going to have to work through it this quarter. And Port obviously possessed the footy a lot in the second quarter. Got a few things in place, so hopefully we can break that open.
He looked a lot stronger in attack when Jared Redden was up there. Looking at stationing him there for the rest of this quarter.
Yeah, he'll play up there a bit. We've got locked down a rotation, so him and Paz will stay on the ground, but hopefully he can clunk a couple.
Doesn't get much closer than this. God's good luck.
Look forward to a fascinating final term. 1 point the margin in favour of the Maggies. Here's Kim Morgan.
Thanks, Neil. It's been an arm wrestle. Maggies with their noses in front, but the Eagles with the breeze, and they've been fast finishers this year. 14 goals to 10 in last quarters. It's a huge task for Ken McGregor's Magpies as he tries to orchestrate a win against his old club. Big game. If the Magpies win, they'll go 2-2. Square with the Eagles. If not, it'll be the Eagles 3-1, the Magpies 1-3. Now this bounce will have to come back. A bit anticlimactic to start the last quarter. It'll be a throw up. Heard Chris Kendall say both teams down one rotation. Who will that advantage? The Maggies, they've been fast finishers too. As Harder tried to kick that ball, but he was tackled. Mitchell got scooted around. Powell's handball cut off. And how will the umpire see this one? And rewards Johansson, who did a great job there to affect the Powell handball. Parry. Harder's in there working hard. He gets it free to Michael John. Now Rose, can he find Butcher on the lead? He was infringed. Cully will remonstrate. Give the umpire a death stare, but matters little. Butcher, huge kick this.
It is. Look, if they can, any goal they can get early is going to really put the pressure on. You could see Butcher really trying to get him off, so just trying to stay with Butcher that time just became too much, and he's ended up probably over-scragging, which has run him into the ground. So the free kick definitely was there.
His only goal was to this end in the second term, Butcher. He doesn't add to that. He just started that a fraction too far right. The breeze grabbed it.
He actually kicked that pretty well. You could see it started curving to the left, but I reckon the breeze is then just sadly enough for him brought it back to the right. So yeah, just missing marginally to the right side, but a pretty good kick.
So the margin stretched to 2 points in favour of Port Adelaide. Great kick in by Kelly, finds Lewis. Straight off to the run of Mitchell, who then goes wide for Parry. Parry through the centre square, goes long and high, looking for Redden. And Redden made his way to the ball and then dropped it. Now he's got it in his hands, and Siri Rakawasa had him, but he gave it off to Joyce. And the snap at goal, end to end. Well done by the Eagles. They're back in front.
Maybe just a little bit too easy too. Starting off with Mitchell again, who's been doing that all day. Parry, good run from a ruckman there, just linking up in that handball and kicking long to advantage. And just a good follow-up in here, and under a bit of pressure too on that left leg, and that's a pretty good kick.
So Nick Joyce, in his first game at league level for the season, has 3. 2 of them in this second half. Wasn't he happy about that?
Pretty excited about that one too, but a pretty important goal.
Well, it gives his side the lead. Umpire electing to throw this footy up. And as we've seen quite a bit today, a secondary ball up will eventuate, which means more players can come in from both sides. Harder looks like he's in the middle at the moment. Gray just got it on the boot quickly. He's been pretty good since half-time, Gray. Losing that one to Jared was Butcher. Jared's handball was creative. Gave it to Lewis, to Day. Now Powell, right in the middle of Woodville Oval. He'll just thump it high. Ainge is in great position. Just got over him on the breeze. Beard had to go back, and they'll be desperate to hold this ball in, the Magpies, if they're able to.
Eagles ball movement looking pretty swift at the moment. Just Powell there inside. Fumble from Butcher earlier that's cost them. Now they're back in their 50. So Eagles starting to break this game open, you'd think.
Well, Roundtree trying to force his way through. It was taken high by Rakawasa. And so he'll go back and have a look at goal from just some 20 metres out, straight in front.
You'd pencil him down for this, but every time I do that, they miss, so I won't do that. But kicking from straight out in front, looking at about 30 metres out, so a very good chance. And that's why
a very good chance, and he's kicked it.
He has kicked
only
it.
just. A lot of work for the goal umpire, but the boy from Ardrossan, the best and fairest winner at this club last year, kicks a goal. And they kick out to an 8-point lead, the Eagles.
I think Hoskin wasn't overly convinced of that one. He was just having a look and then having a quick word to the goal umpire. But just the attack on the ball here, straight through. Everyone else flat-footed, took it on the run, and clearly high, so a very costly error. And Port, this game starting to break there. The next goal, if it's not by Port, is going to be probably a telling sign to the result of the game.
Yeah, it's been the perfect start for the Eagles. Just what Michael Godden would have wanted in this quarter. They've taken a bit of sting out of the Magpies, who know now that they're 10 points down and they're kicking into this breeze. It's going to take a huge effort now. Umpire again taking a lot of time to bounce the ball, but he executed it well. Gray was in there fighting. Can the Eagles come away again? Throw paid against against Goldsworthy. So to go Slattery's way. He had Hoskin working for him. Hoskin went really wide for Kirkwood on centre wing. Butcher, quick handball. Young tried to break the tackle. Great effort by the tackler. Young did free his arms and get a handball. Butcher, John Cock comes now. He had 3 to beat, and he's deemed to have infringed foul. Both running at the ball, but he's deemed to have made some contact there. And it'll be Powell's free kick.
He ruled that he wasn't going for the mark at that stage, and Luke Powell was, so Powell quickly off. Big kick from Thompson, all the way to the centre square. Joyce in front, Thurgood behind, knocks it away. Lewis now shares the hand pass out fairly well. Here's a left footer, Orman. He found his man in Roundtree. Roundtree, well, he spins round. And now Ormond again, and Ormond just whacks it along. Ainger will go to the back. Ainger almost got it. The contest there, though, finds Redden. He just couldn't get an effective kick away. Mitchell on the scene. And Beard just goes, I think, as far as he could away from goal. He didn't find the boundary line. Well done by Goldsworthy, and then Hall, and then Mitchell, and Hoskin. Well, he let the ball go, and Hoskin is rewarded. It'll be play on advantage. Gray slips it inside Meiklejohn. They've got to run now, Port Adelaide, and they know it. Young, back to Kirkwood. It'll be play on advantage again, but Kirkwood doesn't really have a target long at all. John Cock gives him a lead. He has to mark this. No, it won't get there. Butcher fades back. Now Johansson to goal. Nobody in front of him who's going to run him down, but almost Sumner got him. Hand pass over the top. John Cock goal.
Just great play there. Johansson, for such a small... I shouldn't pick on him with that because I'm pretty small myself, but he just worked really hard there. Didn't panic. Like young kids that haven't played a lot of footy would probably grab that one and just boot it long. It probably would have got turned over, but he backed himself. He backed his speed. He had two bounces and then just timely threw that handball out to John Cock and sealed the goal.
That was pretty special by the youngster. 58 kilos he's listed at in the budget.
It's got to be the lightest in the comp, you'd think, wouldn't you?
He'd just about get a ride in the Melbourne Cup in the top weight this year. But his speed was brilliant then. And then to handball to John Cock, who was able to pick it up and kick his 4th, and the Magpies stay in it. Slattery goes back here. Summerton. Thurgood round the corner. Lewis should be first there. Boundary line looms. He did well. Freed his hands, got it to Day. Kane tried to go inside a player hard. It dispossessed him momentarily, but he had backup. Day, Lewis, Kane. Just says winner one-on-one to Mitchell. Hoskin's been good today. Gathers the footy. How will the umpire see this? Hoskin had no prior and he gave him a little bit of leniency. Big ball to be won now. The Eagles have got it. Thompson's handball. Can Jared get there? He does. Slows it down. Composes himself. Gets inside a tackler with class. Kicks long. Eagles looming down here. Redden at the back.
Not a good result there for Port. They had the numbers in there, but Redden just hunting that ball out and just snuck in front there to take that mark. Pretty smooth footwork there by Luke Jarrett, just sidestepping around. They had him cold and he still was able to just step around that one and force that ball in long. Now we see another shot on goal.
He's been a factor, Redden. 4 marks. I guess that'll all be in this second half. That kick was a beauty. The big man's kicked 2 goals since he's gone forward. And the Eagles just get a bit of breathing space again. They're 10 points in front.
There he is again. Luke Jarrett just didn't panic. Really wanted to get that ball in. You see, he didn't just want to blaze. And there it is. Pushed it in, got the extra penetration there. Redden just sneaking in, lost his man, taking that mark and kicking that ball pretty well off the boot there. A long-range kick with a bit of breeze. And had no trouble at all. 10-point margin now.
Centre breaks 13-11 in favour of the Eagles. This one becomes vital. Parry for Goldsworthy. Oh, he got out of there fairly easily. Now Hall using his pace. Steadies now on the left foot. Tumble punt down towards Redden. Oh, he almost pulled it in. Rakawasa turned inside out. Redden another one. Oh, wonderful work from the big man. He has 3 for the afternoon.
It's just about into the game off his own back here. You can see the differences playing out when they can quickly get that ball in, just a one-on-one contest. Redden looking very dangerous there. Had the advantage in the mark, didn't take it, but looked very agile once he hit the deck too. So he's proven to be a problem for Port at the moment. Just here as we see, just turns him inside out, straight on the boot, as casual as you like.
Some good footwork for a big man. He's shaped to go back in and then, well, he went back towards goal, did it really well. He's only kicked 9 goals before today in 27 games.
Surprising though, the way the boy moves, and his set shot doesn't look too bad either.
And the way Port Adelaide are going at AFL level means they could have a very potent ruck combination for a while, the Eagles at Sandford level. If they have Parry and Redden for any length of time, that's a headache for opposition coaches. As Parry wins this one, Goldsworthy hitting it over Ange's head. Redden again, almost taking that one. Does so now, great pick up again. Slips a tackle, handball back. Kicking the footy now, inside 50 was Dawson. And it goes through for a point. And Port Adelaide need to reload and reload very quickly.
They do. Redden looking very dangerous up there, but a couple of just soft tackles, I think, by Port there, that just letting him get out. He probably should have been shut down, possibly made into a free kick for holding the ball.
Beard will get a free kick. Just a little high that on him, so he's called to play on immediately to Stanley. Or Scanlon, I should say, and then Scanlon short for Summerton. Summerton taking his time, which is something Port Adelaide don't have a lot of at the moment. This margin of 17 points, the equal game high. The second quarter at 5 minutes in, the Eagles were out by, third quarter, 5 minutes in, the Eagles were out by 17 points. They'll come again. Sumner over the top, pokes it towards Parry, got the call out. Run on by Mitchell, looks inside quickly. He's got Powell free, 2 grabs, even had time for the 2 grabs. And he's not a huge kick, Luke Powell, but he does have that significant breeze at his back. And right at his left is Thompson. So Thompson belts it. He is a long kick. He got a fair share of it, but just didn't have the accuracy. And Ainger on the line takes the mark. Ainger looks up quickly. He'll go around on a fairly severe angle, especially for a right footer.
He's keen to get rid of it as well. Look, a great pack mark there by Ainger. Powell, pretty smart too. Here we go with the banana kick. Not this time though. He's missed a lot. But Powell probably just using a little bit of the clock and then realising that he's not going to make the distance and just giving off on that one to Thompson.
Well, he is a Victorian, and of course they don't do the check side. Call it banana over there, but you can see why Angel wanted to give it off with that effort. The Eagles, though, just a bit of class at the moment across the field, starting to tell. Beard kicking long. Now Raymond clearly infringed on Scanlon on that occasion. Umpire deeming there's no advantage there, so it'll come back to the former West Gambia boy in Scanlon.
See, Eagles going to set this wall up here and try and really press it in there. So picking off these little short ones probably isn't going to work, but they're going to have to do it just to get a bit of ground first.
Almost time to roll the dice, isn't it? They've just got to take risks like that, and sometimes they don't come off. Harder did well, though. He made Scanlon's kick look okay, and they've got a spare up the field. Can it get to Thurgood? It does now. Had runners inside. Uses Rakawasa. He goes for Butcher. Beautiful kick. Butcher now. John Cock's one out. He leads up now, John Cock. Butcher puts it out in front of him. Gafrida, he's been a good match for John Cock all day. John Cock keeps paddling, and that ball went out on the full. And John Cock's kicked 4, but Gafrida's done a pretty good job on him.
He has. He's been all over him. You see, he just can't break free, especially with the start that John Cock had. He's just Gafrida all over him at the moment and just forcing him wide on that occasion.
And Gafrida going from right back pocket to left back pocket and out of bounds. And just by the by, as we watch Graham Johncock stretch those aching calves.
It's like he's cramping up.
The goal umpire took that last ball that Johncock kicked very well, and then a beautiful, textbook perfect hand pass out straight back to Gafrida. Meanwhile, here's Jared. He breaks free. He kept it low deliberately, did very well. Hall gathered it in. Now Lewis. Lewis can go down the line long. He's decided, in fact, to use the short ball, and he's chipped it up towards centre wing. Ainger across half forward. He's got a player loose. This is Kane. Kane waits. Oh, he had a long option available in Powell. He decided to hold on to it to Thompson. Thompson looks at the goal face. He gives it his all. It might roll in. It might. No, it just sat up in the end for Slattery to knock it through.
Just that Johansson then. I mean, if he hadn't chased, then it would have been just run in and have a shot for goal. So great pressure from the young kid.
Kirkwood took the kick in and went wide for Thurgood. He's had a lot of it today. 11 in the second quarter when Port Adelaide had 129 disposals, would you believe, chipping the ball around. Rakawaz had 16 in that term. Now Thurgood's kick was marked by Harder. He's probably played his best game of the year, Luke Harder. Had 2 goals, his best return, but he's also worked up and done some good work up the field. Gives it to Rose. And he'll give it to Gray. Powell came in, affected a spoil, then won it. Looks up, didn't have a lot on, got it on the boot. Now this will be a foot race. Roundtree was one of those running for the footy. Beaten to it. Rose got a handball to Harder. Port Adelaide need to win this, and Butcher came and clunked the mark. Was called to play on though, touched off the boot. Meant Gray was under real pressure when he got it. Rose ducked the head, but he got a free kick.
Probably a little bit lucky, but definitely had possession of the ball first, so you've got to protect him in that situation.
Rose straight back to Hayes. So Hayes takes his time, and again, it's a game-high margin of 18 points. He can't really take much time. Port Adelaide wants to win. Meiklejohn, the captain, 4th year in that role at Port Adelaide. He's waiting for lead-ups. He doesn't have anybody. Finally, he's called to play on, goes short to Hayes.
He kicked it to him previously too.
So Hayes got McKenzie. I haven't called him much this afternoon. Corey Ogilvie in a moment will provide me some stats on McKenzie, but here's Hayes. Long he goes, Harder. Oh, he forced the pack apart and then almost took it on the ground. Was he taken high? Redden the tackler. Harder still with possession. Umpire circling, having a look. He's going to ping in. No, he's not. He managed to get it out just in time. Now we'll get a ball up. And Corey, we might come to that stat for a moment, just to tell us how many times that McKenzie's had the ball this afternoon.
Yeah, it's just the 8. Neil, he's had 6 kicks and 2 handballs.
Now, how do the umpires see that one? I've seen them pay diving a couple of times this round. That one went the other way for kicking in danger.
They are. I was going to say contact below the knee. They're also looking at that one, but Harder doing the gutsy thing there and just diving over the ball. He's been pretty good. He looks strong in the contest and he's trying to work hard to get his team going.
Chance here, Magpies. Summerton's handball was genius. Can Johansson reward him with a goal? Keeps it really low. And Gafrida's done some good work. He marked that ball, gave it to Jared. And game of inches sometimes. That kick from Johansson would have gone through an unguarded goal, but Gafrida got back across, and now Jared give it to Lewis, and they might be content to eat some clock. No, Lewis is going to thump it long for Mitchell, got over his head, and Rakawaza was skirting the pack, and he can reload now for Port Adelaide. Handball to Sharrod. Sharrod's got Thurgood who marks the ball.
Thurgood in the centre of the ground. Port Adelaide want to move the ball fast. Not too far out from time on in this last quarter. They trail by 3 goals. Hoskin down to half forward. Just sat it up a bit. That allowed Goldsworthy to get the punch in. Well done by Mitchell. Won the ball. Dealt it out. Sumner couldn't handle it. Slattery did. The other way he goes, and then he looks for Beard, who's been sent, or rather Young, who's been sent forward. Young back towards the centre of play for Johansson. Low to the ground, just tapped it out. Eagles will come away again. Parry and then Day clearing the area. Lux of Fortune with that kick. It's found Raymond. He looks back inboard. He's got runners. Oh, who else but Mitchell? Mitchell in the end couldn't handle it. He'll end up on the end of it, though. You just know he will. He tries, or he ends up turning a circle because he came to a dead stop with the players in front of him, and then finally they get it to half forward. It's knocked out to Dawson, who's tumbled over. A series of mistakes. They were ugly a couple of times, the Eagles. They didn't really get away with it. And now Port Adelaide the other way. Here's Aaron Young. Young can spread it wide. He's got Hoskin. There's a couple of players for the Eagles showing the wares of an afternoon of football, and Hoskin goes short, and Johncock leads up 40 from goal.
There he is again. Not too much Gafrida could do on that one. I guess he's coming down unaccounted. Just a bit disappointing there, a bit fumbly, a few skill errors there. Port not really manning up on the Eagles as I was going forward, so they were lucky to turn that ball over, but they forced it down, and Johncock, who's done most of the damage up forward, has the ball again.
4 for the afternoon, sprays that one across the goals, and in the end through for the minus score. So it's a 17-point game, and we're into time on.
Was that their last chance, the Magpies?
It's given them that handy point. If they can kick that quick 3 goals, they
win.
That's right. They're not too disappointed. At least it was a score.
Some tired-looking players out there. Raymond's got this. He drives it forward. 2-on-2 down here. Scanlon's been pretty honest all day. Beard has 2. Hayes. They work it out. Can they get some space here? Kirkwood's handball was a risky one. Well done, Gray. And they've set up the spare. Rose has got the ball now. Had more time than he realised there, Rose. And he'd love to have that again. He picked out Craig Parry, who'd got back to help the defence when he probably could have grabbed it, Slady, and run 10 metres.
He could have, yeah. Definitely should. A bit of voice from behind, maybe telling him that he's clear.
Jared's kick just got through the hands of Hall, who ended up laying a good tackle on Gray. And the Eagles won't be too disappointed to force a stoppage pretty much right in the middle of Woodville Oval.
Port fast running out of time at the moment, 21-minute mark.
Parry has rucked the majority of the game, and certainly in the second half as Redden went forward. Now Powell, high he goes. Ainger fighting hard. Was he held? Umpire said yes. And to be absolutely honest, I thought it was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think, yes, Beard had an arm in there, but the arm itself was being slung around, as you can see.
Yeah, look, he's given that grip, just the action, and you can just see from the perspective that the umpire had that it just would have looked like him pulling him around. So, yeah, Beard unlucky there. But Ainger, look, potentially I'd say put the nail in the coffin on this one. He's going to take his time. Kicking from about 40, not far from straight out in front.
So Andrew Ainger just to seal the win for the Eagles. And he's done it.
Pretty straight up the road.
He's done it. So they lead by 23 points. 22 minutes in, final quarter.
Eagles played it quite well this quarter. They've found the open spaces. They've been able to push back and try and slow Port's use. Port haven't been able to just wheel on, play on, take the game on. They've had to play relatively slow, which hasn't been in their favour. Eagles, ball use has been pretty clean forward as well, and tall forwards, Redden and Ainger, certainly popping up in this quarter.
Took them a long time, didn't it, to wear the Magpies down. Been a brave fight by Port Adelaide. But at the 22-minute mark of the final term, Ainger's goal does kill it off. 23 points now, and it was his 4th goal. As Parry, Powell's in there, Roundtree, Thompson, all by hand. Kane now, driving forward. Redden or Ainger! New opponent on that occasion. Same result.
If Rekawasa didn't have a headache before, have a look at this.
He's got one now, look at that. Yeah, just the old knee. Just slide that knee into his head. Just that anger to insult. But you can just see that the difference between the penetration that you can get. Kane's taken that kick just forward to centre, but he's been able to pump it deep in there, and they do look dangerous. If they can do that and get it in quick before Port can get their numbers, that's the sort of result we're looking at.
And it's his 5th goal, a great return. Perhaps should have had 5 or 6 last week when he missed a couple. Ended up with 3 that day. But he'll be really happy with that return, Andrew Ainger. And right now his move to Woodville Oval is looking pretty good for him.
It is. He won't be disappointed. And certainly, I mean, with the loss of Grokey as well, you can see the Eagles, a much needed hole there that needs to be filled. You know, they can't guarantee on Redden as well, so I can see why they would have gone out of their way to get him here, and he's certainly paying him back. He's had a pretty consistent start to the year. Actually,
Neil, they had Fitzgerald, Salter and Staple all playing reserves. Grokey injured, so they've got a lot of tall forwards.
Age are the best of them this afternoon with 5 in the league team. Meiklejohn taking the ground. We'll get another ball up. Port Adelaide has kicked 100+ points in their past 2 games, but in all 3 games this season that they've played thus far, they've conceded 100+. And right now they're in danger of conceding that 3-figure score again. Meiklejohn with the free kick out of the ruck contest. Diagonally across the square he goes. Dropped by Scanlon, who will come back on Lewis after the ball was smothered. Lewis was good enough to get it out, and we'll get a ball up. Raymond taken straight to ground after he received. Young, third man up, spiked the other way by Hall. Kirkwood trails it back. Allman got there. Kirkwood clashed. Now he's got it back under control. Now he's tackled, and he hasn't released it. Finally he does. Players still going hard at it. Late in this game, Eagles have it under control by 29 points. 25.5 minutes in. The last quarter went some 30-odd minutes. So we might have a few minutes left yet.
Sadly not enough for what Port need, you'd think.
Meiklejohn hit that one. Quick kick out. It was touched. Butcher had to get rid of it quickly. Cully's been pretty honest on him. Now this kick, get to half forward. Hayes did the spoiling, came back to him. Chance now for the Eagles. Powell, left foot. The Magpies have got 2 back on Redden now. One of those was Thurgood. He's paddling the footy. Eventually, he'll be held up by Redden.
He's done pretty well there, but he has dived on the ball. Probably a fair decision in the end, but you've got to be careful.
I reckon Michael Godden will look back and think we haven't probably played our best footy, and you take a 5-goal win. As the kick came out, Parry, they've set up a bit of a wall here across half forward. Raymond, he got forward and kicked a goal earlier. Can he get another one? What a kick that was.
It was a great kick. He's kicked that from well outside 50. Just leading into it as well, Raymond. He's run to the spot, realised he had a lot of space. He was actually jumping around, demanding the footy. So, very excited to get his hands on it. And I guess if you can kick like that, why wouldn't you be? Didn't quite catch in the tape there, but just before that, he's just jumping up, waving the arms. Kicking from 55 to 60 there, and he's cleared that easily. So I just don't think Port really, they were always, after Eagles had kicked that couple of goals, they just didn't really take it on. They should have gone 3rd man up and just taken them on and run. And if it didn't work out, fair enough. But I don't think they took enough risks, and this inevitably was going to unfold.
So that stat comes true for Port Adelaide. Every game this season, 100+ points conceded. And the Eagles, who went into this game with the worst scoring efficiency in the league, only scoring with 44% of their inside 50s. They've been better this afternoon. And they'll concede a free kick here in the centre break. It'll go to Aaron Young. So Young plays on immediately. Through the centre square unattended, then he just laid it off to Gray. I think the Eagles become a bit slack and complacent. Then Gray for Johncock. So Graham Johncock might end his afternoon on a good note with his 5th goal. Only some 10 or 15 metres out.
Just walking back there and back to the mark and setting up his routine, it would appear. Worked hard forward there. Probably Eagles more worried about pushing into the 50 and just clogging that up. No one actually stood the mark. That's why Aaron Young was able to play on there.
It's had an interesting afternoon. 13 possessions. This is 14th. And this for his...
Pretty smart there. Just allowed for that breeze. Just hung it out left and let it curl back nicely. Hasn't been too bad up forward. Just probably didn't get given enough opportunity throughout the day. Here it is here. No one on the mark. Draws the defender nicely, and Gray's able to pump that one over the top to Johncock, who's working hard forward.
So Johncock's 2 games for the Magpies this year have yielded 12 goals. It's a good return. Hasn't had it all his own way today, though. Gafrita's been a worthy opponent for most of the day. Another long quarter here. They're ticking over to 29 minutes. The result has been known for probably about 10 minutes or so. The Eagles have kicked away in this term. There's Parry hitting that one down. Meiklejohn on his 150th. You heard the ball touched. It matters little. The Eagles have improved their record to 3-1. The nightmare of early stages 2012, a distant memory right at the moment. They kicked away in the end after a hard fight to win 16 goals, 8, 104 to Port Adelaide's 11-9, 75.
Just looking at the game there as well. Look, Eagles didn't get out to an amazing start. Got out to a reasonable start. Port were able then to fight back in the second quarter. I thought they played the second quarter holding the game up a little bit pretty well, fought their way back. Just that third quarter is probably what cost them the most in the end. They just didn't kick enough, use the breeze well enough to get that scoreboard buffer, and in the end, as we probably expected and as a stat in recent history tells us, Eagles just being a little bit too good, a little bit too skillful. Their ball movement was better, and just able to break through in the end, and very dangerous up forward with the tools of Redden and Ainger, as well as the midfielders combining like Powell around the stoppage.
So Angus Roundtree, one of the better players on the ground, and so we just go through some of his highlights of the afternoon. He is a tough nut. Angus Roundtree clears the ball on average 7 times a game. From Ardrossan originally, a real hard nut. And he won the best and fairest last season, and this afternoon he had 27 possessions, 20 of which were handballs. Down to Chris, he's with Angus Roundtree.
Had a big day with the leather today, Gus Roundtree. That was a huge last quarter there, Angus. They threw everything at you in the first 3 quarters, but you ran right over the top of them.
Yeah, no, it was good by the boys. Yeah, like we just came out after half time. Yeah, we got a little bit towed up there in the second quarter, so we had to give it our all. We had a bad day against West Adelaide a couple of weeks ago, and we just wanted to keep the ball rolling after last week, and we just didn't want to give in.
You had such a big game last week and you really had to pump yourself up for that one. Was it hard to sort of maintain that same level of excitement, I suppose, for a game against a team a fair bit lower than Nord?
No, we came out same every week. We never want to lose a home game. Norwood are a good side, and Port, they got a lot of quick little fellas in the midfield there, but you just got to prepare yourself the same every week, day in, day out.
You started the season really slowly last year, but you've come out pretty well this year. What did Godsey change in the off-season from last year to give you that better start?
We had a fairly big pre-season on the track and in the gym. We just didn't want to leave anything behind this year, and no second chances this year. We just want to do the best we can, and yeah, we have started well this year, but we just got to keep the ball rolling.
You've started the season yourself in pretty great form. Looks like you're really enjoying your footy at the moment.
Yeah, no, we've got a great bunch of lads here. Good to be around every day. Just want to get out here and have a bit of fun with the boys.
Going to have some fun singing the club song, mate. Soak it up.
No worries, cheers.
Might be a while, in fact, before we get to the club songs. We watch Port Adelaide going off the ground. Of course, their record dips to 1 win and 3 losses under Ken McGregor for the first time this season. What's the future hold for them? Can you see them forcing their way forward to a top 5 position?
Jeez, well, look, not at that stage. As you just see the captain, Meiklejohn, coming off then, and he's just sort of scratching his head and looking frustrated more than anything else, like, what do you do? But I mean, their side's going to be probably changing a little bit with the AFL influence as well, but I don't know, it looks pretty grim at the moment. Not a great start to the season.
I think James Meiklejohn might have been shaking the head at the idea of being chairlifted off in his game 150.
That's probably a good point.
As much as his disappointment, I think it was, that's what he was shaking the head at. But look, Port Adelaide, they certainly made a fist of it in the opening quarter. They kicked into the breeze. They kicked, though, 2 goals for with 2 out on the full. And they, to a degree, wasted it.
Yeah, just a few missed opportunities. Butcher probably would have wanted to see a bit more out of him. He popped up here and there. He was a bit fumbly. Didn't give him enough. John Cock, look, it was a timely in for Port Adelaide, because he did. He kicked 5 goals and gave him something. He needed someone else to help him out, maybe take a bit of the focus off. But Eagles they just worked away at it the whole time. You could see that if it was going to break open, it was probably going to be their way. Port just not quite good enough in the end.
We see some of Port's work with the breeze in the third term. It was a long third term, a high-scoring third term relative to what we'd seen in the first half. And at 3/4 time, it's only 1 point the margin in favour of Port Adelaide.
It was. Look, they would have wanted to be a bit further up in that. The game did change. We saw it was very stack the back lines and play keep off. That sort of changed a bit in the third quarter. Maybe the breeze died off a little bit, but there was goal-scoring opportunities both ways in that third. So Port just didn't take enough of their chances, I don't think.
No, and certainly trailing by a point, it did open up in that final quarter, and the Eagles with another victory, well, a victory at home that they'd be very happy with by 29 points, and very interesting just to see how much oomph will go into this song.
The mighty flying eagles wearing gold and green and blue. Sound the siren, turn us loose and watch the bells run and see what we can do. We're the mighty flying eagles. We're the mighty flying eagles. We're the mighty flying eagles in gold and green and blue.
I've got a lot of AFL players AFL listed players in that side, but Kane Mitchell is not a local AFL player by any means, and he stumbled through that song as we look through quarter by quarter. 3 points to the Eagles in the opening quarter, 5 points at half-time, and as we said, Port Adelaide by just that solitary point at three-quarter time. They couldn't go on with it. Must be said, though, the Eagles were kicking with a fair breeze in the last quarter, and as the game opened up and Port Adelaide tried to win it, they conceded goals at the other end. Andrew Ainger with 3, Nick Joyce with 3, Andrew Ainger, I should say, with 5, Joyce with 3, and Jared Redden popped up with 3 goals for the Eagles, and on the other side it was mostly Graham Johncock up forward who was responsible for some good goals for Port Adelaide with 5 for the afternoon. Quick look through the statistics, and what do you make of them?
Well, it's hard to say, isn't it? Look, you can see that the Port had a fair bit of the ball. Just the penetration forward, I guess, for the Eagles was what was the difference in the last quarter. They were able to get it in there fast and with less use. So Port probably still trying to use the ball a lot to get it out in the playing short in that last quarter. So, I mean, you can see Eagles clearly all over them. 54 inside 50s to 36 was probably the telling point.
Well, coming off a premiership in 2011, 2012 was a horrible start to the season with 5-0 the other way. They lost 5 in a row to start the season, Chris Kendall, but I think Michael Godden be much happier with the start this season and certainly the result this afternoon.
Yeah, look, most certainly. Godsy, they threw everything at you there in that first 3 quarters. You really had to try and find a way out of that in the last quarter, but I thought you not only ran over the top on them, but really started to dictate the game on your own terms again.
Yeah, I think so. The first quarter I was really happy with. I thought that there was a bit of a dour contest, and then the second quarter they controlled the ball really well. We had the breeze, and it was pretty much a break-even quarter. But yeah, the third quarter frustrated me a little bit, but then I was happy with the last. I didn't think it was a great game of footy. I don't think we'll be real happy with the way we moved the ball, and some of our simple skill errors were well below par. But hey, you take a win any time, and we lost our last game here at home a couple of weeks ago, so we didn't want to do that again.
A lot said about how many AFL players you have on there. Do you find that really increases the pressure on your reserves player in a lot of ways, knowing that you could lose the AFL guys at any moment? These guys have to step in and contribute straight away. Yeah, look, yes, NFL's all about your depth, and we've got 14 AFL listed players, so we can have any number at any time. So our juniors have to be ready to go, and our reserves are winning this year. I think they've only lost 1, which is fantastic, and it's keeping pressure on these blokes. And Nick Joyce and Chris Kane came back in today when we lost Brodie and Bernie, and I thought they acquitted themselves really well. So that's really important, is depth in the SANFL. One bloke I thought that really gets underrated outside the club, Patrick Gafrida. Johncock kicked 5, but I thought Gafrida did a really good job on him nonetheless. Absolutely, I agree. It's really hard when you have 5 kicked on you to feel good, but he should feel very good. I think Graham's a fantastic footballer, has been for so long, and he's hard to match up on, and Patrick did a great job. I thought that the tackle in the second quarter, I think it was the first quarter maybe, was outstanding, and that's what he does. He never gives in. Great job for the Eagles today, Godsy. We're going to see you in a couple of weeks coaching against the NEAFL. Looking forward to that one? Yeah, I am. Yeah, we're going to get through South next week. Yeah, that's the first one, but looking forward to that game. All right, see you then, Gods. Thanks very much.
Well, certainly he was looking forward to Michael Godden last season's state game, because at that stage he didn't think he was going to see a win for the Eagles. It's a little bit different this season, there's no doubt about that. One of the better players this afternoon, Matt Goldsworthy, small player. A lot of, you'd think this is the type of player that's going to play 200 games at SANFL level for the Eagles.
Look, he's a consistent performer. He's a dangerous, and you can see, look, roving his own ball there, but he is very sharp around like in tight. He's good up forward as well, so he poses a pretty big threat. He'll put pressure on. He works very hard forward too.
24 possessions and a goal for Matt Goldsworthy this afternoon. In terms of small men, on the other side of the ledger, Sam Gray for Port Adelaide. We know his class. He had a big afternoon stats-wise. Perhaps during that second term when they held onto the ball a lot, it was padded a little bit, but he did have 19 kicks and 15 handballs.
He did. Look, he worked hard. You can see he was mixed up in a lot of it in tight. He broke out as well and tried to create a bit of run. He went forward and put on a lot of pressure as when the Eagles broke out too. So, look, he tried all day, so he can hang his head high.
On to our awards as they are this afternoon. Let's go to the goal of the day. Jake Johansson from Port Adelaide. Quality little man at just 16 years of age, still in year 11 at Henley High School, but it was a good finish early in the game. In fact, I'll just look down at my stats and say it was the first goal of the game, I think, that Port Adelaide had kicked, and that was a good finish.
Look, really good. I mean, I was pretty impressed with him. He is a lightly framed kid, so young, to be intimidating playing at that size, at that age, and he looked pretty comfortable out there. He did a few pretty good things. He put on pressure, and that was a very effective goal.
And Port Adelaide also gets our mark of the day. Justin Hoskin playing in the defence, and he pulled down what we considered to be the mark of the day, coming as the third man up, getting a good leap.
Pretty impressive, yeah. Early in the game too, Hosking just timed that one nicely and got over the top. So they didn't win the game, but they took the a couple of novelty awards away in the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they can take much out of that in terms of prizes from this afternoon. Certainly they won't take any money for our awards. Anyway, let's have a look with one game to go in round 5 of SANFL football. Of course, it started on Anzac Day, the traditional rematch of the grand finalists, with Norwood beating Westies by 26 points, coming from 10 points down at half-time. North Adelaide over South Adelaide down at Noarlunga last night by 38 points to continue South Adelaide's horrible record at home. And the Eagles this afternoon by 29 points over Port. Get down to Glenelg if you want to see an SANFL game this weekend. They're taking on the Double Blues tonight at the Bay Oval from 7:10 with Centrals. As we said earlier, unusually having a whole round off for Anzac Day. That hasn't happened for a long time. Let's go down to the boys on the boundary. And Chris Kendall, you mentioned about the state game. That coming up, officially it's called the NEAFL, but it's actually the Northern Conference of the NEAFL, effectively the old Queensland competition that South Australia will be taking on. It seems like only South Australia can win.
Look, you would think so, Crossy, but in saying that, Kim, there's a lot of players in the NEAFL squad that have played on SANFL that will be familiar with, the likes of Cameron Eilert, Austin Wanamiri, Eddie Sansbury. There's certainly some talent running around in that, plus some ex-AFL players in there. So let's not call this one too early, boys. On paper, South Australia have got the edge. That's a pretty fair team they're still rolling out with.
Yeah, we'll be heavy favourites, Chris. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, guys like Andrew McWalter, Wade Mills, Brad Vassell, names that SANFL fans will know that have played a bit of SANFL football. They'll have a reasonable side, but certainly I think the SANFL will start heavy favourites but won't take them lightly.
Yeah, just as we look through that side and look through some of those names, they mentioned Brad Vassell and Cameron Eilert, who we know played with Port Adelaide, Austin Wanamiri. So there are some names that we recognise, and they've gone down to what we would consider. Wade Mills, another one who played with the Lions and played with Glenelg down here. Danny Wise, you might recognise his name as well, of course, from Woodville, West Torrens. So they are going to a lower level, but they've still got to be competitive, I would have thought.
No, they definitely do. Look, another one, Eddie Sansbury was in there too, and I mean, that was a big loss for Centrals. He was one of their guys that gave them a lot of drive, so another reason why they're probably not going as well as they have. But, I mean, obviously still competitive, and some quality names in that team nonetheless.
As we look forward to what's coming up, though, between now and then, and that game, that state game on May 11 at the Richmond Oval. But, boys, curious about North Adelaide. We'll see them next week playing at Prospect against Norwood. And we'll leave Slady out of this talk because obviously he's involved as an assistant coach with the Roosters. But they seem to have just stepped up from last season and maybe a real challenger to Norwood.
Yeah, look, they have. I saw that game last night against South Adelaide, Kim, and I thought that South Adelaide really challenged them at times during the game. Their delivery to Michael Wunke didn't help them in the slightest, but North Adelaide, they found gears, and that's one thing very important for a team. They were able to step up the pressure when they were challenged, and their second level play players really stood up there. I thought Joe Anderson was outstanding, and of course Andrew Moore had plenty of it. That was a really good team effort, particularly with the tall forwards reasonably quiet.
Pretty unlucky to not be 4-0, Chris. They lost by a point to West Adelaide. By all reports, had a lot more of the ball that day. They've won their other 3 games, and it's a good sign when Matt Slade says that they weren't at their best last night. They still travelled to Noarlunga, won by 39 points. I agree. I think they, right now, along with West Adelaide and Norwood, a legitimate premiership contender.
Guys, we talked last season about the Eagles and such a premiership hangover. As we just look at how North are travelling in reverse to how Centrals are travelling, and I think it's, it is timely just to ask that question again about how Centrals are going. They haven't started the season, they haven't got a win yet, and of course, as we know, they've got a bye this weekend. So where do you see their form heading?
Look, they'll improve. There's no question about that. They're too professional a club more than anything else to not improve. It's just going to be a matter of getting game time into these younger blokes, and that's one of the things that's going to take time there, Kim. I mean, in the old days, they could look to the Gowans, they could look to the Sladys, they could look to these older guys in times of pressure, but now their mid-level leaders really have to step up. This is going to take time. They won't finish bottom. There's no question about that. They probably won't make finals though either, and that's something the Bulldogs fans have to get used to.
Well, it's their worst start to a season since 1967, would you believe? For a club that's only been around since 64. I mean, that's going back a long time. They did have those 3 losses to the sides we've just mentioned as premiership contenders. The big concern, though, is the loss at the Bay last week, guys, where they led that game by 2 goals in the last quarter. Central sides of years gone by just haven't let losses like that slip, and I think it does show it's a new era, it's a changing of the guard, inexperienced players, and a bit of a rebuilding phase, as much as they don't like to say that's what it is.
And Sladey, might just, before we say goodbye to the boys for the afternoon, might just quickly, your thoughts on your old team. Even though you are involved with North Adelaide, I'm sure you've got an eye on them.
That's right. Look, it's disappointing. I was there for so long that it is disappointing to see them where they are. Look, they still are pretty confident with the players they've got, and they think they've got enough talent to be very competitive, so they would be disappointed. Look, there's only so much, I guess, a coach can do, and then the senior players take it on. They've lost so many over the last couple of years that, they need the next group coming through to make them take that next level and keep that consistency up and keep maintaining that high standard. So I guess that's where they're at the moment. They need some young juniors to come up.
Okay, thanks to Chris and to Kim on the boundary this afternoon. And we look forward to what's coming up next week. Round 6 of SANFL football starts on Friday night with Westies against Glenelg at the Richmond Oval. Not Richmond Oval, but anyway, I shouldn't point that out. North Adelaide against Norwood is our match of the day. Port taking on Central on Sunday, and the Eagles against South on Sunday, with the Double Blues having the bye. Thanks for your company this afternoon. A 29-point victory for the Eagles, and Matty Slade, you've got it all ahead of you next week taking on Norwood.
I look forward to it. Hopefully we can get a similar result to last night, but who knows.
Okay, thanks for your company again, and we'll see you next Saturday afternoon. Now, what's that? 10 of their past 11.
What a start. All right, yeah. How many final series have they played over the last 10 years, though? 1 or 2? Port, yeah.
10 years.
Well, since 2000 even.
2. Port been in the finals twice in the last 10. Certainly in 06. Mr. Stats will let you know that one.
Far out. Change of the time day.
I know
Far out.
now is a record for their club. Not making the finals, not making a grand final, not winning a premiership.
Yeah, far out.
Got the big 3 there. 2008, okay. All right, so they played 2008. 2006 as well, I know. Because they got overrun the last quarter by South Adelaide that day.
Oh, were they? Oh.
Yeah, you're up the top of the ladder, mate. You didn't
No, but I mean, it was always that thing where you'd win a couple of grand finals and they'll say, oh, you haven't won a grand final till you've played Port. But I said, well, if they can't get there, we can't play them. But I just don't remember them being around at the finals time, yeah. Oh, okay. So they've played a couple, though.
Yeah, so they played 3 times.
I can't see them playing this year, though, far out.
Or maybe 4 times in 2 years, but yeah. Well, I mean, it's not as appalling as South Adelaide, but for Port
No.
Adelaide,
Oh, yeah.
record period of time.
Jeez.
Okay. Just getting our highlights back together now. For a quarter and a half, I thought that was a crap game to watch.
Oh, it was terrible, wasn't it? I was saying,